All right, at this time, I'll call the 5:30 meeting of the school committee for October 10th. We will be going into executive session, then resuming back in open session. I'll take a roll call of attendance or introduction of members now. Matt Catalano, Millville.
Tara Scobie, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Carrie Goddett, Blackstone.
Dan Keefe, Blackstone.
Joe Spagna, Director of Finance and Operations.
Jill Piligallerani, Assistant Superintendent, Director of Student Services.
And Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
And let the record show Ted Novio from Millville has arrived. So I'll accept a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining litigation if an open meeting law may have a detrimental effect on the litigation of the public body, and so the chair declares to discuss this deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto.
So moved.
Motion made by Kerry, seconded by Matt. We'll take a roll call vote. Ted?
In.
Kerry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
And Dan is a yes. All right, we'll enter into executive session. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're back from our executive session. We're going to carry on with the meeting. We'll begin, if everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is the introduction of members. Matt Catalano, Millville.
Chuck Dunton, Blackstone.
Tara Scobie, Blackstone. Millville.
Erin Banaco, Millville. Carrie Goddett, Blackstone.
Ted Novio, Millville.
Dan Keefe, Blackstone.
Joe Spagna, Director of Finance and Operations.
Jill Piligallerani, Assistant Superintendent, Director of Student Services.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
And now we'll move to our update from our student representative.
Okay. My name is Caitlin Juba, and I'm the Public Relations Officer for Student Council at BMR, and I will be telling you all what's been going on recently at the high school. So first off, our homecoming dance was held on Thursday, October 3rd, from 6 to 9 o'clock, and it was a success with over 350 students that were in attendance. Seniors were able to bring outside guests, and it was neon themed, so the students were given glow sticks as well as light up glasses. There were lots of candy, chips, other snacks, drinks in the cafeteria for students to enjoy while they weren't outside in the courtyard dancing. And as for the homecoming game results, football and volleyball lost, but field hockey and boys and girls soccer took home wins. So now for Charger Time. Charger Time is in full swing at the high school. Students have been using the Enriching Students program to sign themselves up for different activities. Teachers can actually request to see students on certain days if they need to make up work or make up a test or if they're not passing the class. But if a student is not requested, then they're able to choose an activity. So there are some more relaxed options, such as watching a movie in the auditorium, quiet time in the library to do your homework, or coloring. But there are also some more activities for students who are more drawn to athletic activities, such as open gym or game time for those students. And having Charger Time every day also gives clubs the opportunities to meet. And now I'll be telling you about some upcoming events for the end of the year that Student Council is preparing. So starting off, we have the Powder Puff game, which usually takes place in November. And we've also started to think about Pep Rally, which happens right before the holiday breaks every year. So we have been planning some ideas for Spirit Week days, as well as brainstorming some possible themes. And the last thing that I have to talk about for upcoming events is the pumpkin carving competition for advisory, which has happened for the last few years at BMR and has been a huge success. So we're bringing it back this year. Each advisory is given a pumpkin and they have to work as a team to carve or decorate that pumpkin however they choose to do so. and teachers vote on their favorite, and that advisory wins the competition. So that is all that I have for you all this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great work.
I will move on to consent agenda A, warrants. I'll take a motion to approve the warrants.
So moved.
Motion made by Aaron,
Second.
seconded by Chuck. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And next is accept the minutes from September 12, 2024.
Move to accept the minutes.
Motion made by Ted,
Second.
seconded by Kerry. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. If there's no objection from any school committee members, we are going to take some things out of order. We have a full audience here tonight. I'd like to move forward to the school committee agenda item A, student recognition, Millville Library. I voted sticker campaign winners. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I see lots of familiar and friendly faces in the crowd. If all of those involved in the I voted sticker contest want to come down to the table up front here, that would be wonderful.
Come on. Don't be afraid. We bite, but they don't.
And we'd love to hear a little bit, Jane, about kind of where this came from.
So
And
we will do some introductions,
awesome.
but Chairman Keefe, thank you for the opportunity to present at your meeting tonight.
Thank you.
I'm Jane Reggio. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees at Millville Library.
My name's Alyssa. I'm the librarian.
And I'm Colin Curis, the chairman of the library board.
So, well over a year ago, the Board of Trustees at one of their meetings talked about the concept of civics and how to get students and young people involved in library activities and how to encourage voting. And we talked about the going to vote, and some of us didn't get the I voted stickers. The towns don't always have those, and we had seen a town in New Hampshire that had done a contest where the students actually decorated voting stickers, and then the town printed them and gave those out. And we said, we can do that. Let's look into doing that. So thanks to Dr. DeFalco and Jen Remka, they allowed us to go into the school and offer this opportunity, this contest. And we sent around a sheet for the students to decorate how they saw fit. We had unbelievable submissions, well over 50, and from both Millville and Blackstone. So we asked the town of Blackstone if they wanted to participate, and their library will do so. So this year, if you are privileged enough to vote in the November election in either Blackstone or Millville, sorry, Dr. DeFalco, sorry, Jenny, no sticker for you. No. You will hopefully receive one of these beautiful stickers. But we are really pleased tonight to be here to award 4 of what we chose as the stickers that you will get when you vote. And these are the 4 students who designed them. So we will present to them a little plaque, sorry, that says 2024 I voted contest winner, and then sponsored by the Millville and Blackstone Public Libraries. They get the plaque, and that's their sticker. And then they also get 2 stickers. Maybe they'll share one with Jenny. I don't know.
They will.
But I hope they give them to their parents, but only if their parents vote. No. And we gave them a little gift card from Amazon so they continue their artistic endeavor. So the first one is the Eagle sticker, and that was created by Kaylee Lohman. So.
Get up.
Okay. And then we have, this one. It's a Marine, right? It says, I voted. It's a U.S. flag with a Marine. And that is Chase Bronson. If you want to wrap yours up, that's up to you. All right, Colleen, your side. What do we got? We got the I voted with some stars. And, ooh, stars. Oh, Nico, that's yours. Nico Millette. There we go. And last but definitely not least, we have our world with I voted. And that is Kaylin Gladhill? Did I say that right? Okay. And I am sure if you guys stand here with your little plaques, moms and dads would love to get a picture, and older brother. So if you guys want to stand, maybe in front of with the chairman and the superintendent, right in front of the table, turn around, and people can get lovely pictures.
Turn around that
And
way.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
She wants you to,
They want
Oh, yeah.
or no?
Oh, that's okay.
I think you guys should all.
Cover your face.
Wait a few more seconds.
Page
Nice job, congratulations.
It's an important thing.
Do you have other business with the school committee tonight? Your civic duty. Nice work, everybody.
I'm sure we all look forward to collecting our stickers on November 5th.
Yeah.
Can we pick?
Get out and vote.
Yeah, I think you can.
That's great.
Awesome.
We will bounce down to agenda item A on the report of the superintendent, the health curriculum update.
Thank you, Mr. Keefe. So tonight we have a very important update from a team of health and phys ed teachers that has been led by our district lead coach. As many folks might be aware, a couple of years ago, the Department of Education embarked upon revising the state health and phys ed frameworks. These have not been revised since 1999. And so, as you can imagine, there was extensive work to do. Once the framework was drafted and accepted by the administration at the Department of Education, the standards then went out for public comment. After some period of time, the public comment and the framework went back to the Board of Education for the state of Massachusetts, and the frameworks were approved. So once that happened, that then triggered the process at the local level across all of Massachusetts public school systems and charter schools to update their local standards and curriculum. So tonight, we are going to hear from our incredible team of educators who have been hard at work putting together a common sense approach to revising and updating our health and phys ed framework. Do you want to hand that to Mary? And so with all of that, I'm going to turn this over to Mary Colanino, our district lead coach, who is going to, along with our team of health and phys ed teachers, walk us through the revised standards.
Hello. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of what the new standards are. We have on the first slide, this was the focus was on age appropriate and sexual health that is important for overall well-being. These standards were broken down by grade levels to grades 2, 5, 8, and then the high school 9 through 12, but basically moving it towards the 12th grade. So that it's appropriate for student development. The curriculum is going to cover the same physical, emotional, and social parts of healthy education to help students understand how to take care of themselves in a well-rounded way. And the standards also make sure to emphasize personal boundaries and inclusivity so that students feel respected and supported. So the framework goals, a few important ones. One big goal was to give students clear and age-appropriate sexual health information so that they can better understand their bodies and health. And another focus is to help students develop respectful and inclusive view of personal boundaries and the diversity of identities around them. And the framework is also designed to help students make smart and informed choices about their physical, emotional, and social well-being.
All right, so by the end of grade 2, some of the standards include using medically accurate names, including reproductive body parts, recognizing safe and unsafe touching, and responding to trusted individuals, defining and communicating personal boundaries, discussing stereotypes, prejudice, discrimination, and equality, and then respect and recognize diverse family structures. So those are by the end of grade 2.
Nick, before you proceed, Mary, can you just introduce the team so our families
Oh,
at
I
home know who's...
apologize.
That's okay.
Nick Morris, Jill Cole, Josh Shuglo.
Thank you.
No.
Behind, so the committee's aware, behind each of the key outcomes slides, you'll see the specific standards. So the team presenting this evening is not going to walk through every single one of those. There's 17 slides of standards here. In addition to that, you also have the comprehensive framework, the full framework in front of you. The health curriculum team pulled out the standards that we thought may be of particular interest to our school committee and community based on the topics, as Mary mentioned, all particularly anchored back to sexual health.
Do you want us to ask questions at the end or?
Yeah.
while they present?
Oh,
At the end?
whatever.
Unless it's
I don't wanna.
Yeah.
Unless what?
Would you like it, is it grade appropriate or?
So I'm just curious for grade 2, is their class time now built into their PE time? Is that when this is?
Yes. Yeah,
So that's my question. It wasn't anything.
yeah, so we've, Christina Schaefer and I have met with, and also, well, yes, so Christina and I have met, and it'll probably be about once a month, and, or different, like we're gonna integrate some of the curriculum into like, especially for kindergarten and first grade, like more activities and things that would happen in the gym, but yes, they'll have a classroom.
So you're
for
not
grades.
actually delivering this just to second grade, it's by the end of second
By
grade?
the end.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
You're welcome.
All right, so by the end of 5th grade, students are expected to understand changes during puberty and adolescence, recognize that bodies are different and maintain personal hygiene, define child abuse and neglect, and know how to seek help, explain the difference between assigned sex at birth and gender identity, use reliable resources for information about puberty and human development. So those are by the end of grade 5.
And again, the subsequent slides behind that are the specific standards. And I think grade 5 has quite a
lot
few,
of-
although
yeah.
not as many, I think, as 8th grade.
Eighth is the most.
Yeah, that's fine. So some key outcomes for by the end of 8th grade is students will be able to apply decision-making in sexual health situations. They'll be able to understand the importance of postponing sexual activity, explain the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity, analyze how social norms and external influences affect attitudes towards sexual health, and demonstrate online and digital safety strategies. So again, this would be by the end of grade 8.
And then key outcomes by the end of high school, by the end of 12th grade, would be the ability to make informed decisions regarding sexual health, understand the importance of STI, including HIV testing, evaluate options for consensual sexual relationships, including abstinence and safe sex practices, analyze internal and external influences on sexual behavior and identity, and then discussing the importance of mutual consent and respect in sexual activity.
And then for our next steps, we'll begin, we've already actually started, but we're gonna be continuing to look at curriculum that needs to fit the new standards, and also refine some of the units of instruction that we already have. And then to continue to review the process And we'll be looking at the materials from now until early December. And then we will be back here on December 12th to present all of the materials to you. And then after that, we'll be presenting it to the parents.
Okay, to just add
Sure,
a couple
sure.
things just in conclusion. So first of all, thank you to the team. I think we should identify kind of the issue in the room and that these topics are hard to talk about. And I think our health and phys ed team have done a masterful job of trying to really think through, what's the right way to do this? Again, I use the term kind of common sense approach. The Department of Education kind of took these standards and they put them, many of them, in these grade spans. So they have to be taught within, PK to second grade, third through fifth, middle school and high school. The team made a decision to move the standards that may be the most complex and maybe the most kind of squirmy for some people, right? To kind of get their arms around for a lot of different reasons, to put those standards at the oldest grade possible within that grade span. I think it's also important to note that when you look through the comprehensive health standards, so the packet that's in front of you at some point, not the slide deck, you'll see there's 9 total strands in our health framework. This is just one of them. The sexual health standards are just one strand. There's a lot that this team is responsible for teaching, a lot of really important material. There are other topics that are in here that, I just think they speak to the time in which we're living. Some of them are around sex trafficking. Some are around identifying appropriate and inappropriate touch and how to report that. And so I think while some of these topics can, make folks uncomfortable, and I get it, I think the team has done a really nice job of trying to take something and try to kind of help make meaning into a curriculum for our kids as we move forward. They will come back to the school committee. Our health and PE team will come back to the school committee on December 12th and show the resources they've compiled and put together in terms of how they will teach this material. Once the school committee sees those, we'll then turn around and send that material out, as Mary mentioned, to our families so they can see it. So to our families listening at home, they don't need to worry about anything being taught around these topics until they have an opportunity to see what they are. And not just the standards, but see the materials, right? So like, how are you going to teach about gender identity? What is that going to look like? What are the materials and resources you're going to use? So we're going to take the next couple of months to compile that and then send that out to families. To our families at home that may be feeling uneasy about some of this, please know that there is a policy within our school committee manual that is really clear. Parents have an opportunity to opt their child out of sexual health standards and standards of the like with these particular issues and topics. What I would say to our families first, though, is our teachers are going to do really good work. And they do really good work with our kids every day. And they're going to put together the best units they can to teach this in a way that makes sense at the grade levels that we are required to teach it. So I would just ask for patience and a little bit of grace with the team. Because what they are going to bring forward, I think, will in fact make sense to families. So I would ask that our families at home give the teachers a chance to put these materials together, give the school committee a chance to see them before anybody jumps to any conclusions or decisions on anything that's going to happen. At the end of the day, we do believe strongly in parental rights and opportunities of the like in this, with these types of topics. But I think it would be important to see what the teachers and the health curriculum team puts together first before making any decisions, because they've done great work so far.
When would we see it in the classrooms?
So December 12th will be when we come back. I believe, Mr. Uglow, I think you actually have one of the units that are up first. So I know I talked to Mary about kind of shuffling some of this scope and sequence around for you, if possible.
Yeah, we typically, with our health curriculum with the high school, we typically do first quarter because we see it for a semester, first and second quarter, and then third and fourth is in a whole new group. So usually first quarter, we're doing nutrition right now. We've been talking about extending nutrition a little bit, and then maybe spending a little bit more time in PE. And then once everything gets approved in December, and all that stuff is out for everybody to see, then we'll just, get through all that information with the students we're seeing right now in first semester. And
Until
so,
January.
yeah, we'll just we'll have to push that off a little bit. We'll still cover it. It'll just be a little bit of difference in how we structure our classes on a day-to-day basis. But they'll still get all the same information that the student second semester will get. It'll just be in a shorter period of time.
And for our families at home, the semesters, just as a reminder, second semester ends in usually late January,
Yeah.
right?
So it still gives us enough
There's
time.
time, yeah. But to your point, it's probably going to be condensed compared
Yes.
to second semester courses.
Yep.
So probably January, Erin?
Okay. I didn't know if it was next year, so.
We are typically, and I think the committee knows this, we're typically ahead of the game on almost everything. This is something we intentionally did not get ahead of, and that was on purpose. We wanted to see how other districts were going to roll this out, have a chance to talk with other health educators, other superintendents, other curriculum leaders. We didn't feel we needed to be first out of the gate on this. We actually thought we could learn a lot from our peers. So we've taken the time to do that.
Yeah, the frameworks actually didn't get completed until I believe it was the end of last school year too. Most of us went, the whole team went on a conference in the summer this year, in August. It was a 4-day conference, 4 full days, where they kind of broke down all the new standards and everything that was added. We got a lot of good information and materials that we can kind of use in these next couple months. Mary's told us that we're going to be given some PD time to work on this as a department, so we can really kind of streamline everything, put everything in order, and be ready to go. So.
And then our elementary school teachers will be going to the same people that ran the conference in August will be running one for some of the districts around here in Bellingham on November 5th. So they'll be going and hearing pretty much the same thing that they heard.
Yeah.
So lots of training, lots of thoughtful planning.
Yeah.
Nobody's making any fast, kind of moves to implement anything. And I think it's important for our community to know that, this is a partnership. We get that, and we're working hard to ensure that once we have the information, we're sharing it like we're doing this evening. This slide deck will be up on our website. So in case parents want to see it, and in one of my updates that I send to families sometime this week, I'll reference this and link it so they can, they can click it and see all the standards that are in there. And so likewise, when our units are constructed and ready, we'll do the same thing and send those out to parents.
And we only have one PE teacher in elementary school now, right? I know there used to be 2, and we had 2.
Yeah, so Karen Thompson and
Oh, 2.
Dave, yeah, they'll be going, both of them will
They're
be
still
going.
both with us, okay.
Yeah, they're both still here. But there's only one at MES.
Yes,
Yeah.
only one at MES.
Will the
Is
curriculum
Thompson
for,
here?
Yes.
Is she-
Yeah,
oh,
she's
okay.
here.
will the curriculum for those, in case a family does opt out, will you present that curriculum at that time too?
Absolutely. That's actually a conversation that we started to have yesterday, that we will definitely be providing that as well.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
In case a family wants to opt out, if they will have that curriculum ready at the December 12th meeting as well.
Like, what will the kids do with them
Oh,
in class?
I see. Okay. They're gonna run like 3 extra miles.
But yeah, we just typically do just an alternate assignment.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes it's on like environmental health and
Yeah.
community health.
But you'll see those as well.
Yep.
It's a lot of work, and it's some of them are delicate topics, and so I'm grateful and appreciative for all the time that you've put in to this. And I know Tracy as well, and she couldn't be here tonight.
yes. Couldn't
be here
Tracy's
tonight, but
yeah.
Charms put a lot of time into it too. We'll get it. It's going to take some time, but we'll do our best to put together the materials that make the most sense for the topics we have to teach.
Tara?
And just to confirm, this isn't all new. There's just some new.
That's
add-ons.
right. So what you see in the slide deck behind the cover sheets that the phys ed teachers just presented are the new pieces of
Okay,
the
perfect.
standards, and they're in there, and we pulled them word for word out of there. So
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's only a small percentage of
Yeah.
actual new material that they want
Yes.
us to put in, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for all your hard work on this. and
Thank
we
you.
look forward to seeing you on December 12th.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to item C on the superintendent report, the 24-25 student improvement plans and professional data plans.
Yes.
Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. We are excited tonight to present our 24-25 school improvement and PD plans, and I'm going to start with Mrs. Schaefer and the MES team. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for your patience. We're going to pull your slide deck up for. That's not the right. Jill, do you want to? Tim, can you do the Millville Elementary? Can you share it with Tim, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. No problem. It's coming right now.
You should have it now.
In your packets are the school improvement plans themselves. And the slide deck, we didn't just save paper because it's essentially just summary of the entire plan that's in your packet.
All right. So actually, I'm introduce the team first. So Christina Schaefer, principal.
Mary Vaughn, math interventionist.
Jill Ballester-Dudka, coach at the elementary and middle school.
So we on our, I should go to the second time, sorry. I'm not good with this. So one of the things that is in our school improvement plan is with the reorganization of the district and Millville Elementary being pre-K to 3, we needed to update our portrait of a graduate. So at our staff meeting on Tuesday, we updated. We actually really didn't make many changes. The third grade team was part of every group as well, so we kind of split the third grade team up to make sure they heard everything to make sure that their students. The only section we really changed a little bit was citizenship, and we just kind of added a little more rigor to the 2 bullets that were there. So bullet number 1, I can be a respectful and responsible member of our school community, and we added the digital citizenship as well. So kind of starting those discussions of digital citizenship, and it's important. Our kids are starting to use more and more of it, and all of our kids K-12 are 1-to-1. So it's important that they know how to act appropriately at that age with the devices. So, and then the other thing we changed was number 2, and it was that each person is unique in how they look, act, and think. So we wanted to make sure that we worked on that inclusivity. We are spending a lot of time with that as well. So that was another piece that we thought was important.
So the next thing we want to share with you is our data and some of our key findings. So we do a STAR early literacy for grades K and 1 and a reading for grades 2 and 3. So for STAR early literacy, 59% of our kindergartens were at or above benchmark. 61% of our students were at or above benchmark for grades 1. And then 39% of our students are meeting or exceeding for grade 2, and 49% of our students are meeting or exceeding for grade 3. And then to complement that, we do DIBELS. And for DIBELS, 32% of our students at the kindergarten are at or above benchmark. 50% of our students at grade 1 are at or above. 47% of our students are at or above for grade 2, and 49% are at or above for grade 3. It was nice to actually see, since we've done this for a couple of years, to see that first, second, and third are kind of holding, and we're going to see how we can grow for next year with them. For math, we didn't have anything as of yet. In early literacy, there's an early numeracy, so we have broken that out into the 5 subcategories to see where they're at and to see how we're going to keep a measure to see how they're growing from BOI to MOI to EOI. And then we did a comprehensive into math assessment for grades K through 3. We're doing BOI, MOI, or EOI. Grades 2 and 3 were the students took it in the system and put their own data in. For grades K and 1, they did it on paper. So we're now inputting all those students in so that we can have the Intermath data to know strands and trends and patterns. So we can look at that. So we'll be getting that into the system so then we can start to dissect it and analyze it.
And that was one thing that was new this year. We've typically just looked at it on the paper, but by putting it into the system, we can actually use the Intermath reports. So we'll be able to pull the same reports for K and 1 that we are for 2 and 3. So that's going to be a nice piece that we can work on. And a lot of this work in the literacy, as you know, we've been working with the early literacy work for the last couple of years. And we've actually recently applied for another grant. And it's actually in collaboration with Bellingham. So it's a new form of the literacy grant. And we are hoping that we'll be selected for that one. But this growth is, I would say, attributed to the work that we've really done and are really focusing on in our building. So the what, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things too that we had talked about. So we're going to be, with the first goal is just looking at our curriculum, making sure we have what's needed. So in this budget cycle this past year, we identified through the literacy work that we needed decodable readers to help our students grow in their reading ability. So we used that as an item to purchase, and we purchased them for grades K, 1, and 2 this year. So we're going to continue making sure we have all the materials we need for both math and ELA, making sure that we're meeting the best of their needs, as well as using the curriculum frameworks, the portrait of a graduate work, and all of the research that is out there to meet their needs. And as you'll see, we did update the portrait of a graduate, and that was reflected already. And then the next one is the system and structures for the equitable, high quality, rigorous, equitable curriculum. And we're just going to continue monitoring our assessments. One of the things that we are working on and that we are really excited about is the summer reading and the summer math activities need a little bit of revamping. So that's one of our goals for this year, is to look at some more project-based learning and supporting our students and families in different ways over the summer. So as our ILT, we talked about maybe offering like a virtual time for students and families, because the purpose of the summer work is to prevent that summer slide. So offering virtual opportunities, offering in-person opportunities during the day, during the night, coming to the school, doing different things to try to engage our families in helping them do stuff with their students. Mrs. Jones has also generously volunteered her husband to do something. I don't know if many of you know, but he has a cartoon, The Sour Grapes, and she's already volunteered him to come and do some character drawing to help the students do stuff like that for their summer book and kind of encourage that summer reading through projects and fun and engage them and want them to be there to do that. So it's one of our big projects, is to kind of develop our committee, review it, and then identify the dates and the platforms and all that stuff. The third goal is looking at the fidelity of our curriculum and implementation of the curriculum. So doing learning walks, having targeted focus areas. So we've done them this year, where our goal is to make them more explicit, more scheduled. We can't let if we don't have sub coverage, impact that. So we're going to look at that and make a schedule to not impact. We're starting with our PLCs, our professional learning communities. Everyone has that time built in their day or in their week. So we're starting there. And our first walk is going to be to steal from others. So it's not stealing items, but stealing ideas from others and best practices while the teachers are teaching in their classroom. And they'll come back and we'll reflect on what they stole and how they're going to use it in their room. And then we're going to bring it to a staff meeting and share how they've used it in their room and shout out the person they stole it from, and then also how it's impacted the student learning. So really kind of stealing from each other is kind of our first goal. So, all right.
The how. Goal 1 is to fully align, adjust, and implement with fidelity the portrait of a graduate to reflect our PK to grade 3 students. And Christina spoke to that just a moment ago. Goal 2, ensure multi-tiered support systems are in place, implemented, and assessed for effectiveness. And at the middle school, right now, that is looking for us to begin to kind of define what MTSS will look like now that the school has been restructured and we have an additional grade at the elementary. The whole child, continue providing and assessing the impact of professional development around supporting the whole child. We're going to be looking at updating our SEL toolkit to ensure that teachers have a full breadth of resources, and we will be modeling a lot of those strategies in staff meetings so that they feel comfortable in using the strategies within their classroom. We've implemented Rachel's challenge, and in our chain link, we're up to 245 links.
And that was last Friday, so I update it every Friday, so I'll be curious to see what we're up to. We had a lot this week. I would say at least 50 to 100 this week. So our goal is to go around the entire complex.
You want to share what that is?
So start at door one.
What's the link?
Yes. So the link, so the purpose of Rachel's challenge was to talk about the impact of kindness and the chain reaction of kindness. So the link is just like a little chain of paper, and they all link together. So every time a child does an act of kindness, the teachers give that to the office, and they fill it out for each kid's name on it in their grade. And we are actually having a contest for each grade to see who's in the lead. Right now, grade 2 is in lead with 124. But we are kind of sharing that, and the kids can see it. So look how long it is today, and they're excited because every time we get a good chunk of them, we put them up. So where it started at door 1, which is where the AFM side is, and we're now down the second grade hallway. So when you turn in and go to the right, we're down that hallway now. So they're making good progress. Our goal is to be at least at door 25, which is the JFK side, by the end of the year. But if we could get back down that main hallway and back to door 1, that would be pretty awesome. So, and we're shouting it out to the kids too. So every Monday morning, Mrs. LaCroix announces it over the intercom too. So we share, where they're at.
So for the community, we wanted to take a fresh look at communication strategies with our families. So we came up with some ideas to do surveys, and we're going to take an opportunity when we have parents in our building. So the first one's going to be at the parent-teacher conferences. We're going to have a survey to see what's their preferred method of communication. We have a lot of teachers that send out newsletters, they send out just communication via email. Is that the best way to meet? Are we reaching our parents that way? So we want to look at that. And then we're also are going to do some surveys regarding at our events to see how, when our parents come, how do they hear about it? Because sometimes we think we're not reaching them the best way, so we're going to reach out directly to them when they're physically in front of us. And we're also looking to grow our partnership with the community, and we're going to see if we can get more partners in to our events. So that's for goal 1. And for goal 2, leveraging the partnerships, we want to reach out to families and daycares, the community, Boys and Girls Club, doctors' offices, and give them pamphlets of what's expected for the incoming years of grades, so that we can have our parents ready for our children to be ready to come into our school. So we're trying to look to see if we can think of all the community ways we can get out to them, and then start to give them information so that we become partners together.
So our goal, this is, each grade level is going to work on a variety. So like what the expectations for math and for reading and all the subject areas, as well as social emotion and developmental goals. So we're going to share that with families so that they have it. We do it at kindergarten info night. So we share that, what is expected by the time you come to kindergarten, but we're like, why not develop one for each grade so that when they go to grade 1, the parents know what is expected by the time their child is in first grade. And we thought putting them in doctor's offices, Blackstone Valley Dental, seeing kind of like where our group of people are. And then also sharing them in the report cards. And then again, when we send the class placements out, and again, so they're going to get sick of seeing them. They should know them. But that's our goal, is to make sure our families know kind of where developmentally your child should be. And they know what's kind of expected for that incoming year. And then one of the events we did talk about, so for the, as Mary started mentioning, for the family events, we were talking about math for the first one, and inviting like local banks or other areas where people can open a bank account. And we talked about for literacy, have the libraries come where families can get library cards and develop those partnerships as well with them.
We also are thinking about looking at researching a platform, so where we can put our curriculum resources. So we're going to look to see what kind of platform we want to create as a school, and then start to look at the resources we could put out there so that parents can have one place that they can grab information for all of our grade levels.
Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say I appreciate the slides because
It's a very long document.
that was great. Thank you.
We expect that to continue with the next group, correct?
Yes. Next up, Dr. Remke, and I believe we have a team of staff members from the middle school that are going to present a student from our student ILT.
Yeah, you go. You're the head honcho here.
Welcome, everybody.
Bring you back.
Hello. Everybody know me, so I don't have to introduce myself, but we have,
Cadence Anderson,
and you are,
student ILT.
I'm Megan Murray. I'm a special education teacher.
Nick Morris, PE Wellness.
And Kate Dubois, grade 4 teacher.
so we're gonna go over our improvement plan and the key goals and areas and professional development focus. And Jill Fuller says she's timing me, so we're rushing this. So our vision statement and the theory of action is same as last year. And there are 4 areas, and the first area is the curriculum, and Kate's gonna talk about that. Megan's gonna talk about it.
Yeah, so the curriculum is the area 1. So our first goal is enhance writing skills across all content areas through targeted strategies and additional resources to improve proficiency and engagement. So we're writing everywhere across the day and every subject and even in encore classes. We talked about the new health curriculum already, so I won't get back into that. And then just differentiating our instruction in every subject, and it's kind of what I do, so that's where we're at. And then goal 2 is implement the new curriculum in phases with targeted professional development and ongoing support to enhance instructional effectiveness and student outcomes. So we have like a gradual rollout of our new programs, and we're doing more professional development and supporting for our existing programs.
And then the how is directly connected to the what. It's how we deliver instruction to the students to address those goals that were mentioned in the what. So goal 1, of course, was the one connected to writing. And we are determining and we are using comprehensive strategies across all 4 grades here in this building. We are also unifying our teaching practices, which means that we are trying within grades and across grade levels to use similar graphic organizers, for example, similar language, similar expectations, so the kids, as they progress from one grade to another, they're able to just kind of continue developing those skills. And our feedback, we've decided, needs to be actionable and timely. I mean, their writing is only as good as our feedback. So if we give them an assignment and don't provide them with the feedback for another 3 or 4 weeks, we can't expect progress in their writing if they haven't received that feedback. Goal 2 is connected to the curricula and providing that professional development for all of our staff here in this building. We are defining and setting very clear assessment structures so that we know what assessments we're given, when we're giving them, how we're giving them. The instruction is standards-based to align with our report cards and the state standards, and we are differentiating across the board, utilizing all staff here in the building to make sure that the needs of all students are met.
So Cadence is going to talk about the whole child. Cadence on student ILT, and I help facilitate student ILT, so I'm going to help her if she needs it. But you got this.
Our goal is to foster environments where students feel they belong, both inside and outside the classroom. This involves more than just academic successes. It's about making sure that every student feels connected, supported, and able to form a relationship that enrich their school experiences. There's 3 key features: inclusive practices, being culturally responsive, recognizing and valuing the diverse backgrounds of our students, We also integrate restorative practices which focus on resolving conflicts and building a community of mutual respect. One important part of this is the integration of Rachel's challenge, encouraging kindness and connection. There's holistic development. Our focus on student success must extend beyond academics. We will be working to balance academic growth and social emotional development. There's high expectations. We will continue to set high expectations for our students. This means not only pushing them to meet their academic goals, but also supporting their personal development. Thank you.
And then strategic area 4 talks about the community. Our first goal is to continue to foster and strengthen our relationships between us as educators, our families, and the whole community. And we're really looking to engage the families in the learning process actively rather than passively, which then kind of ties into goal number 2, maximizing two-way communications. Some key features of this is timely feedback, providing regular updates to families and giving them that actionable feedback that they can use to support their child at home. And there'll be meaningful dialogue surrounding the new rollout of the 4th and 5th grade report cards, the health standards, and the principal coffee hour.
I'm not buying coffee. PTO is. You good?
I'm good.
So I know they mentioned a lot about, writing across curriculum, social emotional learning through racial challenges, and also restorative practice. So our professional development really focusing on that core instruction and small group interventions, and also family engagement. So in the school improvement plan, I have 3 phases, from September to December, and then January to April, and then May to June. So from September to December, we're gonna focus on laying that strong foundation and introduce writing strategies. Because we started a few years ago, but we kind of did some reflection and we take some quarter turns, like Jason would always say. And also social emotional learning that JOPG have implemented this year for us. How do we monitor that? We're going to do classroom observations and also learning walk and giving teacher feedback. And so stay strong area with the mid-year from January to April, we're going to focus on follow-up training. We want to look at what we did from September to December and make some adjustment. Do we need to follow up some of the professional development, or do we need to add more based on the data? And at the end of the year, May to June, of course, it's celebration, but besides celebration, it's also evaluations, because we want to look at what we have done, and then we're going to work together as student IoT and IoT and the staff to set collaborative goals for next year. That's it. Any questions?
Anyone?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Nice work. And our final school improvement PD plan for the night, the high school, Ms. Fowles. Welcome.
There we are.
Good evening.
How we doing? All right. See if I remember to push this little thingy. So the high school improvement plan, we're ready to go. We're ready for action. So we'll start with the what that we're doing is focusing on intentional planning. So at the beginning of the year, our leadership team gets together and we focus on what is it that from our teacher evaluation rubric that we'd like to focus on. So those 2 things are going to see in the what and the how. And the first piece is this intentional planning. Not that teachers are not planning, because we plan, but really looking at all the different pieces and how to make sure that we're having high quality lessons, and looking at really diving into making sure that all students are having accessible materials, looking at changing the data as far as the moving away from STAR and going to for math and having assessments that are driven by the teachers that are really going to tell us what grade level skills, and not having a nationwide test that can have you being on different levels and not really knowing what that is. So we're very excited about that. The math department was working on that after school today, actually, and gathering that data. And making sure that our professional learning communities, are really focused on the important pieces and looking at how do we increase our higher order thinking questions, how do we look at our planning in a different way, conducting lesson studies, which is going to be happening with the English department. Mary was just with the English department today talking about how they're going to be collaborating, particularly when they have shared lessons, and really making sure that we are using all of the resources that we have to the best of our ability. And we are also adding this writing across the curriculum, which is part of our learning acceleration network that we've already begun with the middle school. Jenny and I are collaborating on this to get looking at writing specifically as an area. The how coincides with the high expectations, which is also in the teacher rubric. And again, not that we don't have high expectations, but really being intentional about what we're doing and what we're asking. Most importantly, the types of questions that we're asking. We worked with the depth of knowledge wheel. It's an educational tool that looks at increasing the level from the who, what, where, when, why, how as a level 1 and moving into the create piece. Today I was in a classroom, in a robotics classroom, that was looking at making a vehicle that moves without wheels. And the kids were like, well, this is hard. Yeah, so you got to think outside the box. So they were working on really trying to think about different things that they're doing. We're also working on and continuing from last year our productive struggle to enhance visible learning, to allow students to recognize that they can do it. And if it is hard, it's okay, because we do hard things. And so a number of teachers are trying to figure out what's the best way to do that and not allow the struggle to continue if it's not being productive. And what does that look like? So we've started conversations, particularly around how do we move from compliance all the way to student ownership. So compliance is good. We want kids to comply and to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, but we really want to have that student ownership and offering opportunities for student ownership. And then focusing on not just our English language learners, but also how do we differentiate, how do we scaffold for our high flyers, and how do we scaffold for students who might need additional supports. So that's something that we've been doing in our faculty meetings. We will continue to do. We're going to be doing sharing best strategies, similar to like the stealing piece, but at the elementary school, but wanting to make sure we're sharing and highlighting what our staff is doing and what our staff is doing really well. The whole child piece is our charger time, which, as you heard, is up and running. It was great to hear some positive feedback for students really being able to focus in a small group setting and to get some work done, but also some reteaching. Our math interventionist is also able to pull in small groups. Our 8th grade is involved in two groups. About 45 kids are doing math intervention and continue to, while the rest of the groups are doing some SEL piece. So we're being able to focus on that. My student leadership team, we meet on Tuesday for the first time using this charger time because we've already gotten through one rotation. So I'm excited to have them as an equal partner in planning the rollout and what they would like to see from the charger time and what their expectations are as far as this is concerned. And then ultimately moving on, we'd like to do a speaker series, bringing community members out. And I know that ties in with the community, but it also, so if anybody's interested, wants to come in for half an hour and talk about what you do, trying to increase that. We're also going to actually look at maybe having some, right now our colleges come in during the lunch period, but having them come in during that period so they can meet in a small group setting instead of in the cafeteria, which isn't always intimate, to find out more about community planning, college preparation, etc. And then the last is our partnerships and possibilities for our community. Lots of things happening. We're going to focus some of the work on our new athletic director and student life coordinator, who has hit the ground running and working on communication and being really a link from the community in the school. We have our building program with the feasibility study. We're looking forward to having staff feedback on that piece as well. We already have lots of ideas, but also focusing on what do we want a building that's going to work for the direction that the school is going instructionally, to really match that and for the next century. And then our NEASC, we're starting with our NEASC collaboration. I'm on a site visit. I was on a meeting today. I'm learning lots of things. I've printed everything out, so we'll be ready to go because we have our first collaborative visit in November of 2025. So we'll be starting that work on our first professional development day on November 1st. And then our career pathways. So we have an application that we have, we have pathways that we have put together as kind of a focus for students. This is an actual Department of Education designated pathway, and with that comes funding for us to do a number of things. So we're working on that. As far as professional development, I've mentioned that a couple of times. All of this is driven by our student school improvement plan, which is driven by our Portrait of a Graduate. So that is seamless, and that is what you will see if you stop at a faculty meeting. Come on over; you're more than welcome to attend. You can learn something with us, our small groups, and focus on the intentional planning. So ask your kids, if you have them, about their charger time and where they're going and what they're doing. And if their grades aren't what you want them to be, tell them to get into intervention. There you go. They can pick those teachers.
Question.
Yeah.
Is it put into their schedule at some point? Like they know where they need to go, or is it up to them to?
Both. They have the ability to request a teacher, but the teachers also have the ability, when the teachers come and ask them or request them, they lock that so they can't change it.
Is it on the Google Classroom? Like
Nope,
where-
it's a program. It's called Enriching Students.
Okay.
That we were able to get through a grant from last year, and where this came from with the visits that I was on last year, we were able to do this. This is coming from what we saw in Vermont.
Perfect.
So the students can pick
Both.
something, but
They
the
can
teacher
schedule?
the teacher can schedule.
Teacher
it
can
too, right?
override them at any time.
So they can input their own schedule, and then a teacher can say, "You're coming here."
So tomorrow is a day one, and everyone will meet in their charger time, and the first 5 minutes of their charger time is for the students to go in and select for the 7-day rotation. So they'll be selecting from days 2 to 7. They may go in and they may see already, I got to be with Mr. Rowe on Tuesday because that's a math day, and I need to be with Miss Conti on day 3. But I have day 6 and 7 open, so I'm going to select something like that. And teachers have the ability to do different things. Mr. Ugolo is going to do a weightlifting and yoga offering, just so for various different things. We've got a conversational class working with our students, our English language learner students. So we've got a number of things. Our new librarian is doing amazing things, and that place is packed. It was fun watching them do games. It's also really nice when they're doing quiet, cozy reading time. So
it sounds very organized, unlike like you don't know where the kids are.
No.
So when
and there's you take attendance. There's an ability, not only that, but teachers can tell you if they're present, if they cut, if they are present and active, or present and inactive. So if I just show up and I do nothing, we can track that data.
At charger time.
Yeah, charger time.
When is breakfast? If that it wasn't that like
8:12.
a time that they could do it during that
No,
charger
that's
time?
it's just a
separate-
grab and go. There's about a 6-minute window for that.
You're thinking of how it used to be when.
That's why I'm just wondering. I didn't
No,
know it
when
was so
there
restricted.
hasn't been since I came on board.
We got rid of that block.
We got rid of the flex block. It was called a flex
Yes,
period, and there was
yes.
nothing, and that makes me anxious.
Yes.
So I said I would not do this unless we had a way, and I did not want a Google form. The students teachers can take attendance in all areas. It has all that information. I can actually schedule kids who are not scheduled for that day, and every day we get a report. So they get a report on how many kids showed up. If there were any cuts, if I could see who might have cut that class, and I can go in and see who that is, and we can deal with that separately.
Perfect.
It also can give opportunities like for clubs. I know some of them mentioned
Yes.
that they do that. So kids
Yep.
who couldn't do student council because it required a ride to school beforehand,
morning.
now they have that opportunity.
Class officer meetings, we'll be able to plan things. Pumpkin carving is already, is designated that everybody's not going to go to. It's a day 7, so where everyone's going to go and get to do that. So yeah, we're excited. And again, we've only gone through this once, so this was our first full 7-day piece, and we rolled it out. So like the freshmen were only participated in it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because it was a slow rollout. Our 8th grade will be joining us with this on the 23rd, starting on the 23rd with a smaller rollout too. So we'll be ready to go.
Love it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice work, Jill.
No applause.
Oh, and then there's our kids. So we're ready to get it done with our class of 25. I had to throw one picture, and I knew they were going to do lots of pictures. So they're the kids.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the agenda in order. We're going to go back to public forum. Anyone here for public forum? So much easier to ask when the room is empty. Okay, next on the school committee, item B, approve waiving of fees for BMYBL use of facilities for practices. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, we heard from the organizer of the Blackstone Millville Youth Basketball League. In the past, they have always paid for the custodial fees and any overtime fees. And frankly, to
Can
my
I
fault.
clarify what you just said. So in the past, we didn't always pay for the the custodian fees. It was during the week when the custodians are on site.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We didn't pay for that.
Yeah, these are all the overtime. These are when
Yeah,
there's
the
nobody here.
Saturday, Sunday things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, these are the overtime fees when there's nobody in the building.
Yeah.
But to our fault, we didn't charge them the $20. I think it was $20 a day for the building, the gym use fee. So they have officially requested we waive that fee for them this year.
So I don't think we should ever charge them year after year. The school facilities for the town's kids, they should be able to use it without being charged. In my opinion, I think charging of the fees was for outside groups or
the $20 fee is
for the gym, the basketball. I don't know. I just think, in my opinion, never charge our youth basketball league. It's part of the school, not technically, but it's a feeder program.
So we've
I think
always
it
charged
should be.
custodial, not on Monday through Friday, but Saturday morning games, they've always had to pay, or Sunday for travel.
Yeah.
And I feel like the difference is you're paying, the kids are paying, so we don't charge Girl Scouts. We have not ever charged BMYBL.
No, we haven't.
But
we haven't charged them.
And we don't usually charge like Girl Scouts, but there's not.
They fall in group. If you look at our policy, if you look at the school committee policy, I think they fall in group 2. And the fee for that is, I think it's $20 for the space per day. It's a small fee, but it adds up because they use the gym a lot. So we have not charged them in the past. And they have requested formally that we don't charge them moving forward the gym use fee. It's $20 for this.
And this is for
particular year.
practices and games, like
yes,
Sunday tournaments or travel.
Well, no,
They would still pay the
We're not
custodian.
waiving
The
the
custodian.
fee for Saturday or Sunday use. We're waiving the fee just for the Monday through Friday.
No, they're asking for the fee to be waived, not for the
Total.
custodians.
Oh.
They have that in the budget.
Yeah,
They're asking
I
for the $20 a day fee to be waived for the use of, because they're in the gym, regularly. It gets expensive, which I totally understand. It ends up being $20 a day per gym.
Per
if they're
gym.
if they're in more than one space. So they're asking for that to be waived. What they have budgeted for are the custodial fees, which they've always paid that in the past for when our custodians are not here, the overtime fees.
So I think we should put that on the agenda if we want to revisit group 2 wording type stuff, like for a future.
But motion for today to waive this school year's
request.
Yeah, what's in front of us today is just but you're right.
Right? Would that be
To have a
second?
bigger discussion on
That's a
what Chuck
policy
brought up.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're still paying for the overtime custodians on the weekends, and they haven't in the past paid the $20 per day
That's right.
fee.
Did we already get something from them that showed how much it would have been? Like we approved or is it in here? I'm sorry, I see.
I don't
Yeah,
think
they
we have
say
the
they
full
paid
one here.
they paid $72.35.46 in overtime fees
That's last
season.
year.
Yeah, last season.
Overtime meaning,
The custodians.
Custodian.
Custodians, yeah.
but in here is their request, so.
If we were to charge the $20 a day
Well,
for
that-
both gyms, it's gonna be roughly it depends how many weeks it goes. If they may not do anything on the holiday weeks or anything else, so you're thinking about another $2,000 or so more than what they've already budgeted.
It runs typically November to March. March is when they do their rec playoffs. So it
And
would
if
be
we
a
take-
long time.
But I mean, I guess the question becomes on Sundays, they're charging a fee for entrance.
No.
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 On the travel games?
That
pay?
You don't pay
policy
admission fee.
changed years ago, so there's no fee. You don't pay to go watch the games any longer. It's the,
Bimble does not make any monies on games.
that's when we
It's
were in
just
the
the fee
southern,
you pay.
it was a different
Just the fee
league
to
we were in, and they
So I'm
left
out of
that
that
like
loop.
long
They
time
also,
ago.
they don't even typically hold like their own concession stand on
No.
No
rec
concession.
mornings, but they've
Maybe
opened it
there
up
can
to girls basketball boosters last year. If we wanted to come in and do, as like a fundraiser for girls boosters, we could come in and do that. So they're not.
Yeah, any
making money
concessions
on
that
it.
were done through boosters, or like my son did one for a fundraising for National Honor Society. So they're not earning any money through the season. They're just the player fee, registration fee, which would probably have to increase if we charge them the $20.
Which will then probably increase the number of scholarships they then offer to the students.
Yes.
And based on that message that they sent, they already gave a lot this year, additional scholarships.
There's no question they fall into group 2.
Group 2.
The way it's
Okay,
written,
so
yeah.
for the purpose of tonight, when they applied for this, they were under the impression for the school use, they weren't in the past charged for this, and
Right.
yeah. So for the purpose tonight, we can waive, and then they can stay in group 2, and annually we can waive that once we revisit it. I think that keeps it the cleanest, because other groups will come in and maybe not from town or as committed to the town, the district, and we can give, it's our discretion to waive it.
Yeah, it's written differently though, so just, it is pretty specific in the.
That it's that is,
form.
yeah.
Like for a group that's not town related is group 3.
That's
So
right.
it just kind of breaks it out.
I should say, yeah, the commitment they give to the scholarships and things like that
Mm-hmm.
may not be maybe more than, we can take those into consideration in waiving. Yes, no.
Or we really do need to look at group 2,
Oh, we
because it
can look at
specifically says
Yeah.
sports to benefit the youth of Blackstone Millville community, like.
They
when
fit in
we
group
said
2.
Yeah, it
Yeah, they're
definitely
in
is a
group
group
two.
Waive it, you can waive it. And if you want to change it, we can
You
change
can
it.
have a cap in the future, like when you have 3 kids playing more than one sport, they're capped at 600 for the year for the family. You can have a cap for a group, a local group.
For the purpose
Well,
of tonight's agenda?
They have to pay the the cap is they have to pay the staff. You know, they have to pay the custodial.
Yes, yeah. I meant for like the building, the $20, it could be a maximum of 200 per
$20
season.
per use.
Yeah.
Unless you reach your max of $100 for the season.
I'll make the motion that we waive the Group 2 fees of $20 per daily use of facilities for the upcoming 2024-2025 season for the Blackstone Millville Youth Basketball League.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Carrie. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to point out, are you on the board for Bimble?
No.
So just so we don't run into any sort of.
So I'm not 100% positive, but I'm not participating.
You're not a board member.
The way you were speaking,
You're not a board member. I'm not a board member.
Like a lifetime member, though.
Speaking from experience.
I've been involved so long. Thank you. Okay, I'm good.
All right, so motion made
Not
by
on the
Chuck,
board.
seconded by Carrie. Chuck has no official affiliation with the BDYO, just for disclosure. And any other discussion on this? I will also add that in the letter you'll see, and in Tuesday night selectmen's meeting, they just donated 4 backboards to the Roosevelt Park that's just recently been repaved, so, by other donations, from businesses in the community. So with that being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
While we're on this topic, the Millville Gym basketball, we're in desperate need of being able to use that gym. So because the custodians aren't there, as they have been when the students are there, it creates a problem for practice time for that youth league. So, having to pay. Is it possible to have custodians, they still go to that building, custodians?
They do, very infrequently, but they
Yeah.
do.
Is it possible to align the time they go there when they're practicing?
Our custodian, I believe, and Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the custodian that works there is part-time and she's there in the morning during the week. It's not like they're there throughout the day.
Is there a way to, so last year, the basketball teams would practice at the Millville School.
Yep.
And then the youth league would go in immediately after. And then, but this year, I don't know.
I don't believe
Is
there's
there a way that someone could be held responsible? You could authorize them to maybe have a fob to, so the alarm company is able to activate the alarm remotely. And, there was some discussion between the alarm company that installed the system and monitors it. And I think maybe the Legettes had talked to them about, how they can possibly come up with a solution. So
Looks like Scott wants to be part of this conversation.
Well, I'm not aware of the alarm company being able to set the alarm remotely.
Well, that's what, I don't know for sure. I'm just relaying what I heard. So, anyways,
In the
is there a
past, we had-
solution?
In the past, we had a custodian go there at night.
Yeah.
Of course, when, before we laid off 3. But, they would go and also clean the bathrooms, make sure the building's secure, shut off all the lights, and then set the alarm.
I'm sorry, I just want to ask a clarifying question. Is Millville Gym not usable from Bimble?
I think we're going to need to find a solution.
It
okay.
sounds like they don't want to have to
Space
pay
that
for
we're
it to
gonna
be
need.
available.
Because
It would be
used
available
to
if
be
they're paying for the
Yeah,
custodian.
Gotcha.
But here's a question: Are
because
they
they're
going to
not.
be requesting it for the Saturday morning games and paying that custodian?
No.
No,
Oh,
just Monday through,
but Saturdays
It could
there
be
were always
4 days,
not-
4 nights a week.
Okay, I don't know anything.
Yeah, in the past 3 years, they haven't used Millville on the weekends. Unless they
not?
get,
No, we're just at this school on
Yeah.
the weekends. They are.
But are you thinking between Bimble and then the school teams, Millville's gonna need to be used. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
If we field the teams for basketball for the boys team, then it
freshman
looks
team.
like that we
Yeah.
potential of having a freshman, a JV, and a varsity boys basketball team, which is incredible.
And our school teams can use it with the coach. It's the
Right.
problem is the outside group. That would be like letting Girl Scouts going into the cafeteria where it's not an actual stipend or staff, right?
Yeah, and I just mentioned the team structure because I think we're going to need every square inch of gym we have because we're going to have possibly 3 teams at the high school. We're going to have a middle school team here. We're going to have the youth town league. I think there's going to be a lot of basketball that's going on.
Great.
Which is a good problem, right? But we're going to
But central office is usually there till 5 o'clock, so when our school teams are done, there was somebody there to set the alarm.
Yep.
What times during the week, like, with Chuck,
They're asking for between 5 and 9.
It's in our packet tonight.
No, it's not. It's just
Practices.
JFK and AFM.
Right, I was gonna say, it doesn't,
Oh,
they don't
okay,
have
that's-
MES selected.
gotcha.
But we do have a request.
we have custodians there,
Right, so that's
at
not
the
the
complex. That
So they're looking
that
for
time.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Doesn't the Boys and Girls Club have the
So the
gym?
Boys and Girls Club has never cooperated. We've tried
Oh.
many, many times. They
Have they used the JFK gym in the past?
So-
Wasn't it always just AFM
used
and
the
MES?
JFK.
Yeah.
No?
they've separate-
They use the AFM, but they didn't
Not the
use
JFK,
the
but
JFK.
AFM.
Because
But this year they are planning
the
on it.
complex had the 21st century program the last couple of years that have needed that gym space.
Yeah.
So they used one of the gyms and then the after school program used the other one.
At AFM.
At least during like those hours anyway.
if we ever build a new school, we need 2 gyms.
Yeah.
When?
Like
we
with the
build it.
catwalk across the top, like a
Just a
walking track.
practice
Yeah.
gym.
Yes, when we build that new school.
Perfect. That doesn't fix this year, so.
Just plant a seed that we're gonna struggle with gym time for all.
Without the use of that space, you're saying we're going to need to come up with a solution.
So you think they're gonna have a freshman team this year? Is that?
I hope so.
Gonna be,
The early discussion looks like we could
Is
have
that 8th
freshmen
and 9th graders?
Mhm.
Is that the 8th graders
Yep.
in the?
and still have a middle school team here, 6th and 7th grade team here. So that could be a very good problem to have for once.
Would we have typically had a custodian from 5 to 9 at the Millville Elementary School?
If it was open,
When
yes.
it was open?
During the
We had
week.
one.
Yes, if
Or
it was
two.
open.
When it was open, they worked 2 to 10,
2 to 10.
And there were
Yeah.
2 of them, right, together?
2 at night, correct.
So if we end up having the school teams practice at Millville, they'll have to be in a custodian, like a new schedule.
Unless it's right after school,
Right,
and they're
unless
out by
they're done
5.
by 5.
Right.
Well, and I would say not
But you still need a
necessarily. The
custodian.
custodian doesn't have to be there. It has to be a staff or a, right, someone
Somebody
that
can
can lock
set
the
the
building. The
alarm.
custodian can clean the gym the next morning.
Right, that's true. That's not.
They're on staff on the weekends when the building is being used for public use. But, I mean, would they technically have to be at Millville Elementary when our school teams are practicing? They would
Like, do
just-
they need to be standing there?
Right,
and-
they don't
no.
have to be there. Their coach or their other staff member would be that responsible person, but custodians would need to know that they're going in that gym in the morning. Right now, they're probably
It's more the lockup.
the
at
bathrooms.
the end of the
and-
day.
so
is the
if a
issue.
coach has the ability to go into the school by himself with the team, we can't appoint another person with the same authority that just oversees that league. So leaving the Millville school, you have to set the alarm.
Yep.
And turning off lights and things. So our coaches, do they do that? They don't.
Your coaches would just leave, and then,
They would just leave and someone would go,
yeah, we had an extra
Like last
custodian,
year.
we'd send him over. It was basically on his way home, so we'd stop in, do it. But now we don't have that, and our custodian would have to leave one building, drive to another one out of his way, and then drive back home.
Well, we're down to 3 because we consolidated the
We
buildings.
took
That's
one
why.
building offline.
I don't want misnomers out there about that.
Yeah.
okay.
We'll come up with a solution. Let's go and find a way with this. I know we figured out a solution last year. We'll have to figure it out.
Okay. MSBA update.
Dr. DeFalco.
Did we vote to waive the fees? Did that go through?
I don't even
Oh, I-
remember.
we
finished?
We don't,
So-
I think,
vote and it was a.
yeah, we voted, we
Did- it went-
clarified,
okay.
and then we voted.
My apologies. Okay.
And, yes.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Okay.
We did.
I thought we got lost in the
No,
discussion.
we did. We
Sorry.
did.
I don't know why. Okay. Yeah, so MSBA, our project is moving along great. We posted just yesterday, it went in the Central Register for the designer. I spoke with our OPM, actually I've spoken with her every day, but most recently, we have a lot of interest, like an unusual amount of interest, which is from designers. She said there is a lot of buzz about this project. They've been getting a lot of questions, there's a lot of excitement. I think it's because in some districts you're building a building, you're moving on. I think for us it's part of an overall like strategy. If you read our statement of interest and you read all of our documentation, particularly around our posting for an OPM, posting for a designer, it feels like it's a very community driven project that is also part of a structural redesign for the school system, which I think that generates interest and a lot of enthusiasm. So that's very cool. We're excited about that project, that process coming along. So we will be, by December, we will be meeting with the designer selection team from the Mass School Building Authority. There will be 9 of them, if I have the numbers right, I think it's 9. And there are 3 members from the school building committee that will be making the decision on the designer. And those 3 members from the school building committee are Carrie, Jane Reggio, and myself. So we will be meeting with MSBA to go through the designer applications and landing on a designer for the project, the feasibility project.
Someone who
So thank you to Carrie for being willing to take that on. It's going to be a lot of work going through all of those applications, and also to Jane, who was here earlier tonight. We are going to need to have a very strong voice at the table. Anybody who can do math knows that 9 beats 3. So if there is a designer that we want to move forward with, we need to be incredibly assertive about that, because it seems as though MSBA is just kind of gives everybody a project. So whoever's up next, that they may have in the past had a very similar approach to that. So if Matt Catalano's design firm hasn't had one, but we want to go with Chuck Dunton's design firm, but Chuck just got a project, it is more likely than not they will be pushing for Matt's, even though we want to work with Chuck. No offense, Matt. But so we have to make sure that we have a very strong voice, and I think the team that will be present in that conversation will be incredibly clear about what we want. The other thing I think that will be helpful for us, our OPM narrative, the selection process for that. Those that were on that call heard repeatedly how thorough we were in our discussion around why we picked who we did and why we didn't pick the others. The individuals on the OPM selection panel for MSBA said repeatedly how much they appreciated and valued our thoroughness and our written response and our rationale. So I'm hopeful that they will trust us a bit more because of our previous process. So more to come on that, but lots of good work happening there. By December, we should hopefully have a selection, or at least down to the wire, a selection made and who we want to start negotiating a contract with. So Carrie, thank you and thank you to Jane, who was here.
All right. Next is your conference attending?
Yeah, so each year the Mass Association of School Committees and the Mass Association of Superintendents have a joint conference in November. It's in your packet. This year it's November 6th through the 9th. The attendees certainly don't need to go for this whole thing, but we have gone in the past. We've had different school committee members in the past go. Tammy Lemieux, Jane Reggio, and I actually presented at one of the conferences on leadership and governance, working together to move a district forward. And so it is in your packet this evening if there is a member who would like to go. I will be going the 6th through the 8th. And again, you certainly don't have to attend the whole thing, but there are lots of sessions just for school committees. There's a lot of policy conversation. There's a lot of kind of breakout workshops that I would attend with a school committee member, or sometimes we'll split up and go to different things and then come back and go through what we learned. Sometimes we'll go to things together. But it's a really great opportunity for the school committee to get involved in some of the state level advocacy work. So just wanted to put on in case a member wants
Very
to attend.
tempting, Emerald Resort at the Cape Cod Irish Village. Sounds like a.
Is there a deadline, Jason? For...
I have registered. I think the hotel is probably booked out, but there are a bunch in the area because it's in Hyannis, so you can pick a different place. So we can register, I think, right up to the very end, but it's always better to do it sooner.
I'm very interested, and my calendar might align this year, but I definitely want to talk to you about what we want to attend.
Yeah.
So I'll check in with you.
Great. Yeah, there's a really good session on.
I was looking for this. I couldn't find that. This has it all in
Yes.
there. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of great sessions in there that are very timely. Some around finance, regional school finance, and the fiscal cliff, so to speak, that a lot of regionals are facing. There's a lot of really good sessions.
And I'll hand this right over, if we're all set with that, I'll hand the next thing right over to Erin, the end of the evaluation of the superintendent.
It is that time of year again. We are a little, typically we've done this already, where Jason gives us his evidence, and we're kind of hanging on waiting for MCAS. This year, we're bundling it all into one presentation. Which of course Jason always puts an immense amount of time into. After he presents tonight, I will send out in a timely manner for your feedback and your an evaluation tool where we can then present to Jason at our next meeting in November 7th. We're gonna change that.
Yeah, we may need to change that as a
That
result.
probably won't be November 7th. And complete the evaluation for last school year. And he will very excitedly be presenting his new goals at this meeting later. But, so I'll hand this over to Jason to talk about his evidence.
Right. Thanks, Erin. And thanks for the repeated meetings to go over all of this and to make sure that moving in the right direction here. So I'm going to try to do 3 for 1 and just roll through these. I will go through the end of year evaluation. Embedded in that will be the MCAS and accountability data. And then we'll roll right into the goals. So I'll just try to keep this moving right along. In your packet, actually it wasn't in your packet, it was emailed out to you. Tim, can you pull up my end of year evaluation slide deck? In your packet are the goals, but I emailed out the end of year evaluation because all of the evidence is hyperlinked, just to keep it simple. And I'm actually not going to get into some of that wonky trying to click on things and they don't open and it's, that kind of process. Instead, I'm just going to walk through some of the evidence. And then the only piece that I will go through, I'm just going to grab the clicker, that I will go through with everybody is the actual MCAS data itself. Thank you so much. And I do want to spend a little bit of time on that because there's a lot of good news to share. And of course, there are always next steps that we need to talk about with that. But we certainly don't need to be reminded about our blueprint, although we are in our 3rd year. You'll see that in the goals as it relates to developing a new strategic plan. But of course, we know that everything is anchored back to our district strategy. You know how we put our goals together and the main documents that we use and the main pieces of feedback that we use to do that, and reviewed all of this very thoroughly at the middle of year evaluation, which we did in April this past year. We have a set of focus standards. So out of all of the standards in which the school committee has to evaluate me against, these were the standards that we determined would be our focus for last year. And so I won't read these off, but in the evidence, like we usually do, I tried to tag all of the evidence that is pertinent and connected specifically to these standards, just to make things aligned and simple. Our student learning goal is anchored back to our student MCAS performance, which we're going to talk about this evening. What is absent from this goal, what you will see in my student learning goal for this upcoming year, or this current year, is the work around our accountability targets set by the Department of Education. And I think that's an important piece to mention. We have always been hyper-focused on the achievement and growth numbers, which are important, and haven't always paid a significant amount of attention as far as setting goals are concerned around the accountability targets that the Department of Ed sets. We've always shared them and talked about them publicly, but I've never included them in the student learning goal. In school year 24-25, I have done that because it's probably the easiest way, frankly, for the general community to see the progress we're making as it relates to what is the appropriate amount of progress, at least appropriate determined by the Department of Education, that our kids should be making on our overall scaled scores for MCAS, for growth, for attendance, for graduation rates, for our ELL progress, and all the other measures that DESE puts into the equation, so to speak. So you'll see that will be included. But for the end of year this year, we had our focus on increasing our scores in grades 3 to 10 on MCAS by at least 5% for achievement, are hitting our targets for SGP of at least 50 in grades 4 through 10, where student growth is used. And then we also, underneath curriculum, had some very specific goals set around implementation of our K-12 social studies program, because again, this was last year, while we were developing and revising our science program. And then the last bullet, or focus on instruction, which you actually heard a lot about tonight in our school improvement plans, that is always going to be a focus. These two areas, it should be a red flag if they're not a focus.
You have always had them.
Yes.
And it's been a very repetitive, but every year is different, right? So it's honestly, for me, still refreshing to see you so focused on it.
And this is, other than safety, this is the most important thing we do for our kids, which is the teaching and learning work. But we did have some additional focus areas for this goal last year. We talked a lot about having some intentional and specific district support at the middle school to improve learning outcomes. If you looked at our accountability targets, the middle school got 79% of the targets that were set for them. They had the highest achievement as it relates to the percentage of targets met that DESE set for the middle school. I would argue that this goal was absolutely met underneath this particular bullet. There was a lot of work that went into grade 6, 7, and 8 last year. Now, it didn't show up in grade 6 achievement. I want to just call that right out. But as far as the targets that DESE set for us for achievement, for growth, for attendance, and all the other indicators that we'll look at in a few minutes, the middle school got almost 80% of those. That was a true team effort in this building last year to lift and lead this building to where a step forward in terms of where it needed to go. It certainly has not arrived yet. As you know, we did a lot of work around literacy levels, particularly with our male students. You're going to hear in a later discussion point the need for a before school program for our kindergartners. And I just want everybody to keep this bullet point in mind. We did a lot of work in this area. We're going to continue to do a lot of work in this area this upcoming year. our leadership development with our male students at the high school. One of the pieces of feedback the school committee gave at my middle of year was, what does it look like to expand this? So we are doing that now. Darlene, as our student life coordinator, in addition to being an AD, she's starting to coordinate with the guidance counselors the expansion of not only the current men's group, but adding a group for our young ladies. And what does that leadership development look like for them? I will still do 99% of the planning for them. She's going to do the coordinating with the kids. I will still set up, the visits to the food pantry, to the Perot Center, college tours, all the things that we've been doing. And the guidance counselors are also expanding on this through a variety of career opportunities. I'm really excited to see where that goes this year. And then, of course, our work with our Ed Hub. So as far as the evidence is concerned, there was a lot for the middle of year. That is all still hyperlinked in your emailed document. I just added a few additional pieces. So when you have a minute, you can certainly go through and click on all of these and check them out. But in a second, I will open up or ask Tim to open up the Spring 24 MCAS and accountability data, because we are going to walk through that. But other pieces of evidence that are included are a piece from our end of year district ILT meeting. As you know, we have students at all of those, and the students present a lot of the data to us. They were a driving factor in some of the changes we made to our assessment system and how we're going to be implementing that this year. So that's also up here. And then probably one of the most important pieces of the data, of course, is the end of year data. So if Tim, if you can click that Spring 24 MCAS link, that should be hyperlinked. And then we can walk through some of the data. Not this one, it's the MCAS and accountability data. This is where it always gets hard to present this. Oh, you need permission. All right. I love when this happens. Bear with me for a minute.
I'm just going to interrupt this meeting to let everyone know that the northern lights are blazing in Blackstone and Millville right now. For anyone watching live, look out the window and then come back to us.
Is a geomagnetic storm happening?
No.
Can we
Just
see
for
it?
the record.
Where can you see it?
It seems like right outside. People
Right outside here?
Yes.
I don't know about
Don't
here,
see
but
it here.
at home. So
No, but
here it's a little tough to
Is that
see.
where everybody's going? I bet
I
people.
think
I
so.
it's me.
I don't want you to take
As soon as I first wrote evaluation, you guys got up and walked out.
We've all taken
Dunkin' Donuts.
I'm like, all right, either they really trust that I know what I'm doing,
It
or
looked like it, Dan.
something's going
I left my
on.
coffee in my truck. I didn't go to Dunkin' Donuts.
I thought I got a delivery.
No.
All right, bear with me 1 minute.
Dan's calling DoorDash to the school.
Could have gotten the rest of us something.
I would have. I would have. Going to the men's room, like, oh, my coffee was in my truck. I thought I left it in the executive session.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
That's
Wow, that's incredible.
from one of my kids.
That's awesome.
We'll never see it again.
Tim, to make this easier, I will share
I know,
the
we'll never
document with
see
you,
it
and you can
again.
just pull it up.
We all need Erin's picture.
Aaron, you were done with the superintendent evaluation thing? Or is this what we're still on?
We're just beginning. That.
The school
He's
committee
about
item?
to present us.
Yeah.
So
his
yeah, he's
MCAS.
evaluating
Just,
it.
that's what we're starting.
We're on that item, but you're bringing up the MCAS accountability data?
That's part of
Yeah,
it.
that's part of it.
Is that gonna include this, or we're gonna revisit that on the
No,
agenda?
it's embedded into the.
Okay.
Yeah, is that okay?
I just wanna make sure we're checking off the agenda items as, yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah, kind of is on there twice because he's
Yeah,
giving
yeah, I
it
just-
to us
yeah,
as
I-
his evidence, and it's on your.
Right.
Which is fine. Yeah, I just wanna make sure I'm following along,
Sure, yeah, no.
because the timer's on.
I'm gonna get cooking. Don't worry, I'm moving.
I cannot see.
So the headline, since the timer is running, green is good.
Good.
Okay, so you can see a lot of green. But the way the way that we put the data together this year for MCAS and accountability, we did a little bit different. You can see that on the left side of the table, you have the grade level, you have the content, and then you have the meeting, exceeding, partially meeting, or not meeting. If you go to that one column over, you'll see it's the 24 BMRSD results. The next column is the 23 BMRSD results. So you can see year over year how we did. And then you'll see the 2024 state results. And so the colors are connected to how we did compared to the state. So if something is shaded in green, it means that we beat the state average collectively. So when I say collectively, I mean exceeding and meeting is how the numbers are actually added and put together. So you'll notice that in grade 3 ELA, we had 50% of our students are meeting or exceeding state level expectations. Statewide for grade 3 ELA, we were at 42%. So we far exceeded the state average. Again, not that that's the ultimate threshold, but it's a really good benchmark to see if our kids are on target. So green is good. It means that we beat the state. And then, of course, on the opposite end of that, for not meeting, if it is green, that means we are lower than the state average, right? Because we want fewer kids in that category. You'll notice I didn't highlight the partially meeting, not because those students are not important. They're very, very important. But as far as how the district is measured on its progress toward our goals, those exceeding and meeting numbers and the not meeting numbers are weighted heavily. So I'm just calling those out. So you can see as compared to the state how we did in grade 3 ELA. We exceeded the state averages quite significantly for ELA. And then also our warning rate is half of the state's warning rate in third grade. So it's also, if you look at the 2023 results in the column right next to it, you'll see that we were at 12% last year. This year we're at 9%. So you can see a reduction there. Tim, is there any way you can zoom in on that a little bit? It's very small on the screen. See if that comes a little better. That a little bit easier to read? Okay. And when the results were released, I did email this out to folks so that you do have I'm sure most of you already have seen this already.
And it's linked in his evidence.
Yeah. For grade 3 math, again, you can see our exceeding and meeting percentages exceeded the state's. The state was at 45% meeting and exceeding, and we were at 56%. So again, quite a significant difference. And the state average for not meeting was at 20, we were at 13. So that gives you a general sense. Similar story in 4th grade. You can see beat the state averages for meeting and exceeding, and now you're seeing our student growth percentile, right? The target was 50, we were at 51. So you can start to see a little bit more data is incorporated as we go through. Looking at 4th grade math, again, exceeding the state averages for meeting and exceeding the state averages for not meeting. 5th and 6th grade is where we started to have a problem in our student performance this year. So if we pause in 5th grade for a minute, now you're starting to see the red. So you can see that the state actually outperformed the district. So for 5th grade ELA, we took a big step back last year, not only as it relates to how we performed against the state, but how we performed against ourselves from the prior year. And so you can see at 5th grade ELA, as a state overall, they were at 38% meeting or exceeding, which is really low. We were lower than that. We were at 30. We didn't have any students in the exceeding category. And I'll talk about what we're doing about this in a minute. But I think a more important story to tell is look at what happened from 2023 to 2024. We were at 49% of our class was at meeting or exceeding, whereas in 23, we were at 30%. So again, different kids, but it's still important to note. The other piece that I really want to call out is our low student growth in this particular grade in this subject. So the kids didn't move. Sometimes you'll see low achievement but a higher student growth. that means that the kids grew, right? Like so for whatever reason, that particular class is struggling, but they're showing a lot of progress. This story is one that is of great concern because not only did the kids not achieve, but they didn't grow. So that was last year's 5th grade students. Those are our current 6th grade students. So we are now at the process, just so you know, not only have we done the beginning of year assessing, but we are looking at this MCAS data by grade, by class, within each grade. So you can actually run section by section reports. So I can see all of the, this particular class. I can see each of the 5th grade teachers. I can see each of the individual kids, the strands and the standards, and the question types. What percentage of those question types the kids got correct and which ones they didn't. Like, we are in the weeds as deep in this as we can get to figure out what the heck happened here. And those of you that have been following our 5th grade results for the past few years, this hasn't happened before. So if you are surprised, I think you're right to be. A lot of us, where we saw this, is like, what the heck? That is not a grade that we have had this issue with in the past. 5th grade math. So this is interesting, right? So now you can see our SGP is at 51. We came in a little bit lower in 5th grade with our performance for meeting and exceeding than we did in 2023. It's yellow because we're within 5 points of the state averages. So we're within striking distance to where the state is. Look at the not meeting. So we're at 5% of our kids not meeting this year versus 14% at the state level. So quite a significant difference there. But you can see that our kids grew in the 51st percentile. So this is a story that says we made some progress. They grew where we wanted them to grow, at least from the kind of the benchmark perspective, but did not do as well as we were hoping. And you're going to see that when we look in 6th grade. If we want to scroll down to grade 6, which is right underneath that. Actually, before we do that, Tim, can you scroll right here just scroll down a little bit to science? There is a really great story to tell with our science scores across the district. Look at the difference as far as our meeting and exceeding numbers in science. We went from 42% to 55% in 1 year. But look at the difference compared to the state. We have 20% of our kids in 5th grade statewide that are failing the science exam, compared to our 8%, which, again, we're not happy about the 8%, but it is far less than this overall state average. It's about on par with where we were in 2023. But again, we're 55% meeting and exceeding compared to the state's 44%. That's a significant difference. So there's good news to tell in some of this data, and a lot of the data. So an important highlight in our accountability targets, again, we were talking about that. The complex met 58% of the overall student goals. So they set an aggregate goal, and then they set your lowest performing student goal. So we got 58% of all the student goals that were set, and we got 76% for the lowest performing kids. That speaks to a very strong multi-tiered systems of support or response to intervention model that you've heard the complex or Jenny talk about before. So now we segue down into grade 6. This, again, was a story that confused a lot of us, because if you know that cohort of students, those were the 5th graders last year that had such strong results. So like I mentioned with the 5th grade results, we are in the weeds of looking at the specific sections, the students, the standards. We're doing the same thing with grade 6, because again, if you look at the SGPs, they are incredibly low. They're some of the lowest we have. So this says not only did the kids not perform, they didn't grow. But I will say that this 6th grade in English and math is one of the few places that this happened. So 5th grade ELA was the other, and 6th grade was another place. And you can see compared to the state, they were far below where the state averages are. But if you look at grade 6 math, you can see we bested the state, but not by a significant amount. And frankly, when you look at the not meeting percentages from 2023 to 2024, they increased. So a lot of work to do in grade 6 in terms of figuring out what happened. If we scroll to grade 7, you'll see a bit of a different story. So we are within striking distance compared to the state, which is one piece of the story. But look at where we are in 2024 compared to where we were in 2023. So in 2023, we had 20% of our 7th graders meeting or exceeding expectations. In 2024, we're at 33%. So that's a huge increase. Look at the not meeting rates. We are at 23% in 2023 to last year we were at 23% at 2023 to last year we were at 19%. So we saw a decrease there, and we're also below the state as well for 2024. Math is similar. You can see we went from, if you look at the 23 results, we are at 27% meeting and exceeding, and last year we were at 35%. So we saw a nice increase there. And look at the drop in warning rate. We were at 23% warning. We dropped that down to 9%. But look at the state warning rate. State warning rate was at 19%. We were at 9%. So I know there's a lot of numbers and such for particularly, I know the school committee has seen this kind of data a bunch of times for our families at home, but you really have to look at all of it to get the true picture. Anybody can pick up a number and say, oh, these achievement rates are so low, this is atrocious.
It's a lot of information, and I think what's important to know is, like you just said, you get it down to the student.
Yep.
And can narrow into the classrooms, and when the state puts it out and you go to DESI's website, you're looking at the district. You're like I think it's important to know that this is Jason's presentation to us, and he dwindled down the numbers for us, because it would be impossible for us to see but also important to note that it shows that he's really focused on figuring out where the deficits are and how to, help those classrooms and students grow. So I appreciate this data, because when you do look at the snapshots of districts, you're not getting this. You're
Right.
not. And this just shows that Jason's digging into the student. And we have over 1,500 of them. So it's a lot. It's a lot of numbers. And it's hard to understand to the lay person. So time and effort is noted here.
When we shift to 8th grade tells a really interesting story. So if you look at the 8th grade ELA, you see red, and red is not good. It means we were below the state averages. I want to draw your attention to our student growth, though. So you can see our SGP in grade 8 ELA was 51. So this is an example of what I was talking about, where the overall achievement isn't where we want it to be, but the kids are growing. So if you look at in 2023, our 8th graders were at 25% meeting or exceeding. In 2024, 8th graders are at 30%. So we saw an increase in meeting and exceeding rates, which is great. Our not meeting numbers were at 30%. That's high. It's a little bit lower than where it was the year before, but it's above the state average. So we colored it red. But this is one of those where you need, to Erin's point, you have to have all the numbers to get a real picture, because the kids also grew in the 51st percentile. That means that they outgrew half of their peers that had the same score as them the year prior. That's actually good. So this is an indicator that shows the kids are making progress. They're on the right track. These are our current freshmen. And then look at mathematics, right? So if you look at the mathematics results, we went from, in 2023, we had 19% of our kids meeting or exceeding, to last year we were at 34%. And as a state, they're at 39%. So we're about 4% away from where the state averages are. Look at our not meeting percentages. We went from 34% of our kids in 2023 not meeting to 9%. That is tremendous And the state averages for 2024 is 19%, we're at 9%. So we're far below where the state average is. And look at the SGP. They grew in the 61st percentile. That means they outperformed 61% of their peers that had the same score as them the year before.
This
So-
is a class we've been watching for years.
These are
right?
freshmen now.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been the notorious, like,
That went through middle school with what's going on, what, so this shows just that bottom 9 not meeting. It shows that something changed, something was implemented, and it improved all of the work that was put into digging into these numbers from 3 years ago. It shows the growth for our teachers, really.
And one of the shifts we did to help on both ends, the teachers, was we did school embedded tutoring in grade 8. We targeted specifically. So there was virtual tutoring, there was in-person tutoring. And remember, the grade 8 academy students moved over to the high school in the morning. It made those classes smaller. So they actually had fewer students in their classes that they could do more targeted work with, just for the first couple of periods of the day. So that was good to see. And you can see the growth in the 61st percentile. That's tremendous. That they exceeded what would be expected of them. And then if you scroll a little bit down, Tim, if you just scroll just a little down, you'll see the science results. And I think this is important to note as well. If you look at our science scores, you will see they are up significantly. So they were at 19% meeting or exceeding in 2023. Last year we were at 35%. That's tremendous growth. And we're about 5% below where the state is. Or 6%, what is that? Is that 5%? Yeah. So we are close to the state average as far as that, but it's highlighted in yellow because we're 5% off. But look at the not meeting numbers. If you scroll down a little bit lower, Tim, you'll see the other direction there. There you go. Keep going. Right here. So you'll see we went from 43% not meeting, which is completely unacceptable, and I think everybody would agree with that, to 14%. So that's a huge decrease. And the state average was 20% not meeting, we were at 14.
Again, a lot of work. And refresh us on what changes were made to our science curriculum to target this too.
So we have adopted for science the McGraw-Hill, core program, and now we're looking this year to even go a step further and augment the labs through this new virtual lab model. That's tremendous.
So that's work from before that he's brought to us, but it is paying off now with time and effort.
Yeah, we're really excited to see this. The results here. And remember, this isn't just 8th grade, right? It's an 8th grade test, but this is assessing grade 6 and 7 as well, which I think is important to note. And a really important data point, and again, to Erin's point, like if you're not digging through the accountability tab, you're not going to see this. Like nobody will know that this is even there, frankly. They just look at the overall achievement. But the middle school met 79% of the student goals set by the Department of Education overall. 79% of those goals. And so I would challenge any other middle school to show that they made that level of progress. You look at one number, and I get it. You look at the achievement number in grade 6, I can understand where people's concerns, but you have to look at where we were from 23 to 24, how we compare to the state, and then what was the actual scaled score target that DESE set for us, and if we met it, and we met almost 80% of those targets. So a shout out to the team that was doing that work. And then we'll shift gears and look at the high school. The high school tells a really interesting story because if you look at the 10th grade ELA scores, they actually exceeded the average scaled score that DESE set for them. So while the overall number of meeting and exceeding is essentially spot on with what it was in 2023, they lifted their scaled scores because you have more kids that are in the exceeding category. So that's a really good news story to tell. You can see we were within 5 points of the state.
1 point.
Yeah. I know, I highlighted it because we were still lower, but of the state average. And then in the not meeting, we went from 9% to 7%, and the state average of the high school 10th grade was at 12%. So BMR is, you can see collectively, the schools are doing good work. We haven't arrived, nobody's claiming victory or waving a flag, but we're making really good progress. In math, the concern there was the low SGP. You can see that although again, lifting the number and the percent of kids that are at the exceeding category by 5 points, and again, it's usually about 100 kids, so it's about 5 students. Overall, they actually received three of the 4 of their accountability points for their scaled score. So they made really nice progress there. They beat the state average as far as not meeting just by a point. Something we're looking very closely at are those 12 students in the not meeting. Those students have to test again. So we're in the weeds of finding out what the standards and strands are for that. And then if you scroll down, we're almost done. Thank you for hanging with me here. To the biology. Again, an incredible story to tell. We went from 34%, and remember, that was a smaller N size. That was a smaller group of kids that were tested. Went from 34% to 53%. So a really good news story. But the not meeting kids, we went from 6 to 12. So again, we've got to figure out what the heck happened there, and those kids will retest. But some really good news overall. And then Tim, if you just scroll to the last page, and I promise I'll wrap up with this piece for the data end of it. This is all the accountability data that I was talking about, and I do want to run through this quickly because I think it's important to highlight. Again, the complex met overall 68% of their targets. I'm sorry, the high school met 68%, I should say the high school, 68% of their targets and 15% of their lowest performing students. That's where the work is, one of the pieces of work is that needs to be done. And I think you're going to, and if you heard Jill mention earlier, and I know people talk about charger time, you hear like some kids are coloring and some kids are watching a movie in the auditorium. I would pose very few kids are doing those things. We have only 15% of our lowest performing students met their targets. The students in that bucket are not coloring and watching movies. The students in that bucket are in intervention. We have to lift that bottom. And that's the 12% we were looking at. That's those students. So we've got a lot of work to do.
For me, that raises the question, is charger time long enough?
Right.
Just asking. For that number of,
Yeah. And then the overall, how we did as a district. So overall as a district, we only got 1 out of our 4 points for English language arts achievement. That is the curriculum we are focusing on this year. And you probably heard all of the principals discussing writing and literacy. That is a major focus for us. And our curriculum team this year will show up in my goals, is going to focus on what are some of the kind of the tweaks we need to make to the literacy curriculum, but what specifically in writing do we need to be doing differently. I will tell you, I taught a writing course today in the middle school. It was grade 7. It was great. I taught a 6th grade science and a 7th grade writing class today here to do some coverage for one of the teachers so she could go to some training. We have just squashed the love of writing out of the kids. And I had a long conversation with the kids in that section about it. And so we sort of scrapped what the teacher left. I got a little bit of trouble with her when she came back, but I did some of the work she asked me to do with them. But we just did some free writing. And it was almost freeing to the kids. Like they just wrote, and they looked at me, they're like, what do you mean we're gonna free write? I'm like, well, write what's on your mind, what's on your heart. What are some things you need to discuss? What do you need to get off your chest? What are you worried about? What are you wondering about? And the kids were all like, are you kidding? Do we really get to do this? And we just 15 minutes. That's all we did. It was for 15 minutes. It was amazing. And the kids that were like, well, I don't really know what to write about. I said, well, then write that. They're like, well, what do you mean write that? I'm like, well, write down, I don't know what to write about. So he's like, I don't know what to write about. I'm like, okay. Now, if you did know what to write about, what would you write about? And he's like, that doesn't even make sense. So I was like, but they started writing. They were talking. It was really a great exercise, and we need to get to more of that. And I think you're going to see more of those opportunities for kids instead of just that structured, rigid There's a place for that, but that can't be all we do. So I won't run through all of the points, but you can see we did well. We did well overall. Our 4-year graduation, our cohort number, I think is a little misleading. We were like a point off of the target, and we're at almost 90%. And that's the cohort. It's not the annual. It's how many kids started as freshmen and finished as seniors. And these are kids we're accountable for, by the way, that aren't here anymore. Like they've gone to other high schools. But because they started in our cohort, they count in our number. So some of these kids we have no control over. Some of them we can't find. They've gone to 2 or 3 schools, but they started here as freshmen. So if we can't trace them and they're not in the SIMS data system for DESE, we own them.
So they could have moved out of state, out of country.
2 high schools later, but they started with us as freshmen, so they're counted as a withdrawal or a drop if you can't find them.
How many of those do we have?
Not a lot, but there were a few. There were absolutely a few. Jill and I we couldn't trace the kids. We couldn't find them. Jill Fowlis. So again, it's not a lot, but when you have 110 kids in a class, right? Like 3 or 4 kids it's a big percentage. So I thought that was a little kind of bogus because we were like a point away from where we needed to be, and our cohort graduation rate was just about 90%. So it's not like it was a terrible. So that's a bit misleading. But our dropout rate, I mean, we have that down to, we were like 1.3%, which is so incredibly low. But even that, we're hoping that this year that we're half of that. And that's just individual case management. Our ELL, huge shout out to Jill and the ELL team. They exceeded all the targets far exceeded the targets set for them. We got all of our points there. Our chronic absenteeism, we got all of our points there. We didn't get any points in our advanced coursework because there were a couple of Project Lead the Way and AP courses we didn't run. So those points are accounted for by Project Lead the Way and advanced placement. So that was how that happened. But overall, some good news. Tim, if you want to jump back up to the evidence slide deck, and the rest of that I'll just run through very quickly. This was the kind of the big piece I wanted to share. Are there any questions on this? I know it's a ton of information, but are we good on that? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll run through the rest of this quickly and just highlight some things. The next goal was focused on this idea of deeper learning. And really that directly connects to what we just talked about, but this idea of kind of acceleration, this idea of meeting the needs of all students, understanding who our students are. And so for evidence for that, we just highlighted a couple of things. Again, the student data, there's really nothing more, I think, telling than that. But also our Blueprint 2.0 monitoring and reflection tool. What's linked to this, you'll see it. We actually have a document where we check in 3 to 4 times a year in the progress we're making on our district strategy. So this isn't something we just write and put on the shelf, but as a leadership team, we actually have a rubric that we use. We have a rating system that's in a Google Sheet. It's linked here. You can check it out. And we put notes in there. We mark our progress on each one of the focus areas, if we're making progress or not. They're really important, reflective, and planning conversations, so that's there for you to see. Our overall strengthening systems work. Again, I won't read through all these, but this is the idea of really building the systems and structures to help support every level of our organization get stronger. I linked a bunch of different evidence here because we do so much work in this space. But one of the things I want to identify for you to really spend some time looking at is the end of year survey data. So usually we send you, and I can send it to you if you want, but we'll send you like 900 student responses and you can see all the comments. You get the 500 parent responses, the 100 and whatever staff responses. This year we did something a little bit different. Jill and I took all of the comments for each specific group and we actually dumped it into an AI program to collate the data for us. And it's pretty remarkable. Mm-hmm. We went through the painstaking process of going through and find, all the patterns and trends, but then we put it in the AI tool to see, like, would this align with, and it was like spot on. So I linked that for you by student, by staff, and by family. And if you want the data, I'm happy to send you the hundreds and hundreds of comments, but we were
Yeah, but
trying
have
to.
them click on one, just so you can show them, like, how it was generated there. Have Tim.
Tim, can you click on that, the EOI survey? I don't know, I should, hopefully it'll pop up.
It's a very sophisticated
Yeah, it's really,
compilation of like a summary of what the topics were in the responses on the survey.
so you can see, like, this is what the staff told us as far as feedback, like what are some of the issues and kind of the focus areas that we should have moving forward. So you can, mental health, inclusivity and support of our students, teamwork, communication, organization, efficiency, planning, support, appreciation of staff. So Jessica and I are taking these results and we're actually meeting with staff focus groups over the next few weeks, at our HR specialist, to ask the staff, like, tell us more. So like these are kind of the summary points, but like, what does this mean and what are some of those next steps we can take to help build capacity and support in these areas? We're doing, Jessica and I are doing the same thing with the kids. So these were the student results. This is what the kids told us. These are the things they want to see in place. Anti-bullying measures. The kids told us, look at number 2. This came from our kids. Academic focus. They want more ELA and math. It was mentioned a lot. The kids talked about that. They want more practice. A desire to learn more history and social studies.
So I think you'll notice with Jason's goals for next year, which he's going to present to us tonight, that he took a lot of this information and built from that. So it all flows together.
And then we did the same thing for families. So it's very easy to get at like a macro level. And you'll see some consistencies across the 3 groups, and you'll see some direct conflict between what kids and parents are asking for.
Better lunches.
Yeah. Kids are like, some of the parents are like, enough of the SEL stuff, and the kids are like, we need more SEL work. So there was a little bit of tension between some of the feedback. But it was a really useful tool.
It's easier to take in than 900 comments. So
Yeah.
I like that.
So this is hyperlinked right to the slide deck. Tim, you can go back to the PowerPoint. That's a cool piece to be able to look at. Yeah, sorry, Tim, there's a lot tonight. Okay. And the only other piece that I just want to call out here, you don't need to open it, but the accountability system, the Department of Education commissioned a team to put together a set of recommendations to the commissioner and the Board of Education to change the accountability system. Desi asked me to be their representative on this team. So we finished the work. We did it last year. I attached the findings and the recommendations so you can see them if you want. You'll notice they didn't use anybody's name, but you'll see the different stakeholder groups that were there. And the way they framed my position was, I think, leadership with experience and accountability system or something like that, because I was on that committee, the Accountability and Assistance Committee prior, and co-chaired it with the superintendent from Boston. So I had the pleasure of sitting on this last year. We did a ton of work, and there are really, I think, solid recommendations. And there was representation from the School Committee Association, from the Teachers Associations, from the Democrat Association, from the Republican Association, from the Business Association. I mean, they had I don't even know where they found these associations. They had every group you could imagine on this panel to make these recommendations. So it took us a year, and it was a ton of work. But I'm hopeful that the balanced approach we came up with will make more sense for communities and districts. So that's there if you want to take a look at that. I just wanted to put a little context to it. The health and wellness goal. This was an interesting one to kind of put together. The District of One event was fantastic. This was, about really bringing community together, and Matt and there was, I mean, you were so instrumental in this, and you know, I know there was our PTOs and our local law enforcement, and I mean, we had helicopters, we had everything you can imagine there. It was an amazing day. But I want to share something just briefly on, because one of the things I discussed that we could use as evidence for this was student discipline data. And Erin and I were talking a little bit about this. If you recall, one of the things that we listed here as an action step we were going to take was these sensors, right? The vape sensors and devices and things. So we installed them across the schools in the middle school, high school. And I was looking at some data, discipline data from last school year and the school year before, and noticed that the number of students that were consequenced for vaping in school actually doubled in number. And, you know, I started kind of puzzling and I'm thinking, geez, this isn't really great data. But when you actually start looking at it, it's because we actually have systems in place to identify the students. And when we drilled down the numbers of kids, it was really the same small group of kids that were frequently, which to me identifies an addiction issue, right? So if you're continuing to get caught, you're getting the consequences, you're still engaging in the behavior, that's an addiction challenge. So I decided to just include the vaping conversation here, because while we actually identified more students and through the technology we're using, we were able to catch them, frankly, and put them through our I Decide and some of the curriculum and interventions that we have for them. You know, some of the students they're still doing it, which speaks to a problem that is much bigger than what we could necessarily solve. These students have gone through our curriculum, our interventions, parent notifications, suspensions, and they're still doing it, which speaks to, you know, a much larger issue. But so I want to mention it here because we are looking at the data at that level, and I'm glad Erin pushed me to include this, because I think it speaks to...
It shows that what we implemented is working.
Right.
Your numbers increased, it's because we had more access to the information.
Right. 100%.
Which gives us more access to help the kids.
Right.
So
we'll remain fighting that battle for sure, because the vaping issue is not something that's going to go away tomorrow. I was sharing with Erin, my own kids' high school, they just took the doors off the bathrooms. Like just
are they still off? Are
yeah,
they still?
They're off. Oh yeah. My kid sends me a video. He's like, "Is this illegal?" I'm like, you're supposed to be in class.
Not in the bathroom.
Vaping is not legal for underage children in the high school bathroom. He said, "Good point, Dad." So I know it's an issue that's widespread, but we're doing everything we can, and we'll continue to fight this battle for sure, on behalf of the kids, frankly. And then lastly, our space. This speaks for itself. We reconfigured, and we have our OPM, and now we're selecting our designer.
So that's one of my favorite goals that you have.
Yeah. So that's the summary of evidence. There's a bunch here. I'm not going to walk through all of it. And if you, as you're going through it, if you have any questions, or if you have any questions now, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, I can segue right into the goals, and we can get that.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Tim, do you want to pull up the goals presentation? And you'll see that the focus for the upcoming year, to Erin's point, is based on a lot of this. It's just picking up where we are and moving the ball, further down the field, so to speak.
Well, and I think that even the student learning goal, MCAT, it shows the consistency of the years of work that have been put into. It also, in my opinion, it's a huge reflection on the longevity of a superintendent. This is how you get things done.
So focus standards consistent with where we were. So still working in the same, to Erin's point, like still working in the same areas, going deeper. Student learning goal, and this is in your this presentation is in your packet. You'll notice a change, and that is that our goal is to meet the DESE assigned targets for our schools. At minimum, we need to be meeting those targets. So we identified that as one of the goals, but left in, of course, the goal around the student growth and making sure the kids are making progress. The reason you don't see the achievement goal is because it's embedded. That achievement goal is your scaled score. That's how you get that goal. So your 500, which is your meeting expectation number, DESE looks at where we are and sets the target moving forward. That's the scaled score target. That's exactly what it is. So trying to find a better way to write that and measure it. So that's a main focus, of course. We'll be implementing our revised assessment system this year. You heard a lot about that in our school improvement plans. With our with our leadership team, including our student ILT, which you heard Jill Fowlis mention, she'll be implementing her team, I think, starting this cycle. Those kids are going to be very much part of our district level work. We have our first district ILT meeting early November, and the students from the ILTs will be at that meeting again. Curriculum, this year we're focusing on writing. We're doing a lot of work around literacy. We're going to be implementing some of the revised science materials, as I mentioned. Underneath instruction, again, you heard lots of examples of that tonight, but we're doing something really important that I just want to call out. We are working with the Learning Acceleration Network. We wrote an application through the Department of Education. It's not a grant per se. They're not giving us money, but they pay for all the services if we're invited in. Because of where we are in our work, with our instructional infrastructure, our leadership teams, all of it, all the work that you all know and we heard about tonight, we were invited in to participate. So our facilitator that we work with is from Ohio. So DESE just flew him out here last week to work with our school-based teams, and he is focused specifically with us around writing. So we're really excited, and Jill's been a big leader in that particular piece of the work. So we're psyched to have that as a focus. And again, of course, continuing with our data cycles and figuring out how to use our new assessment system in those cycles. And this is just set up for the process for this year. Our student health and wellness. We're keeping this a focus for this year. I won't list all these things off, but this is looking at overall a general sense of how we are going to improve student health and belonging and connection to our schools, with their educators, to each other. And again, we'll be looking at student survey outcomes and behavioral data. But something important to mention, and again, Aaron helped me with the goals piece as well. We talked a lot about this, is doing some ongoing surveying. So not just doing the end of the year, but getting feedback from the different groups as we move throughout the school year. So we're going to be doing that.
And possibly in a different manner.
Right. So we'll be doing that as well as our focus groups with the kids and the staff, just to make sure that we're collecting all the information we need to make whatever adjustments we need to make, if we need to. So like we have a student support goal, we have a staff support goal. One of the things just to identify that, and I realized I didn't tell the school committee we were doing this, we have a staff spotlight. So if you go to our website, at the bottom, you saw each month we have a different, we have a staff member from each building that we're celebrating and showcasing for their work. So we had a set of staff for September, and we have a new set of staff for October. So there's a nice picture of the staff member, and the principal writes a nice, kind of blurb about the work that they're doing, which is a small thing, but I know the staff really appreciated it.
Do they get lunch?
We haven't done that, but although the central office is getting lunch tomorrow because they won the Family Feud competition, if anybody watched that at the beginning of the year kickoff. And Jill may have baked them her Rice Krispie treats. We would have done it for any school that won. Mm-hmm. And just for the record, we abysmally lost. Central office did the year before. And Are You Smarter Than Fifth Grader?
Did you practice?
We went from the bottom to the top. But so celebrating the staff, supporting the staff, the focus groups, will be very much a part of this particular goal. And actually, I'll have to say, just because Jess is here, but it's nice to have a real HR person that actually knows how to do not only the technical, health insurance, all that stuff, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but really getting under the surface of working with the faculty around all kinds of challenges. In your short time here, Jess, you've made a huge difference in that. So very appreciative. The next goal is around a district strategic plan. We will be developing a new 3-year plan. We are in year 3 of our current blueprint, and the work has already begun on this. So you will be hearing from various members of our leadership team to sit down and have conversations with them about where do you see, as the governing body of this regional district, things going next after the school year. So, and similarly with our families and on our community, we're going to be asking for input and direction. And then lastly, the feasibility study. Looking to have that well underway with lots of check-ins with the school committee throughout that process as well. I'll try to move through that kind of quick, but those are the goals for this year. Thoughts, questions?
Thank you for keeping the work moving forward.
Aaron, next steps?
It's a lot. So back to superintendent evaluation. I might have said it when you went out for your run, but there will be.
Northern Lights.
Yeah. So in the next few days, I will send out the form for you to formally evaluate the superintendent. And at our November meeting, when that date is determined, we will present it to him in a public setting. And then we'll convene with him in an executive session to finalize everything.
Very good. Any other questions from any of the committee members? That brings us to item D, on the report of the superintendent.
Yes, just quickly, to revisit a topic that we talked about earlier around literacy levels, and particularly for our boys. In your packet there should be, I'm looking to see, do you have the kindergarten? Okay. So in your packet, you should have an overview of a before school kindergarten program. We are looking to create a program that will target, and I have the numbers for you in case you're interested, specifically kids that did not go to preschool. These gaps start there, frankly. And so, as you all know, when we have kids that enter our K program, you have kids coming from our PK program. You have kids coming from like a daycare kind of model where there's not a lot of instruction. It's sort of just kind of childcare. You have kids coming from other preschool programs that have differing curriculums from ours, like Little Peoples or that kind of thing. And then you have students that haven't done any of that. So the first time they walk into their kindergarten classroom is the first time they've been in school. So the kindergarten teacher, frankly, is I think one of the most difficult positions we have, because you have kids that don't know letters from numbers, and you have kids who are reading and writing. And so I just want to share some data with you to put numbers to it so you know. We have, in this current kindergarten class, we have 12, we have a total of 12 students who have had no formal preschool at all that we know of. So out of the class of, say about 110, 12 of them have had none. 24 families wouldn't answer. So I don't actually know. We don't know if they did or they didn't, or if they left it blank because maybe they didn't and they didn't want to share that they didn't. We're not entirely sure. I don't want to speculate. But so there is a potential group of 36 kids that have had no pre-K or maybe minimal pre-K. We have had 18 students that were in a licensed family childcare. That could be anything, right? Like we don't know what the curriculum was. We don't know what they were, what the kids were taught as far as letters and numbers and early numeracy and literacy skills. And then we had 47 who went to our program. So we know at least half of the kids. We know what they've done and what they've learned. So what we want to do to try to start narrowing those gaps before they start, frankly, they've already started, is run an extended day program, but start in the morning, starting first with the students that have not had any preschool. And so in your packet, there's a small overview. Christina has worked with her team. She would be here to present this, but I told her to go home because she had Ashley with her and it's late. She has worked with Joe to identify, where we could find some dollars to do this. It's not a significant amount of money. And they already have the list of students that they want to identify. You heard the Millville tonight already talk about all their data. Like they already have all the beginning of year testing done. They have these kids already picked. We just need the approval from the school committee so we can spend the resources, or Joe can move the resources into this. And we can start reaching out to families and get them started next week. Like there is urgency for us to do this because if you visit our kindergarten classrooms, they're lovely, but you can see like the stark difference between kids that are just learning how to hold a pencil and kids who are literally journaling. It's quite, like the kids who are excelling are excelling. Like they are really moving, and the kids who are not are so much further behind. Sometimes you just need more time on learning for those kids.
Is it just based on those who did not attend pre-K, or is it, so?
That's a great question. We're going to start with that group, but not necessarily, because you may have kids that went to PK that are still behind.
Or I'm
and who
thinking
are
we might
struggling.
have students who didn't attend a formal pre-K, but are academically higher.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, they may not need it. That's where that list gets, this list of our data gets crosswalked with the beginning of the year results that you heard the Millville team mention tonight. So that issue doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because you can make an assumption that may not be accurate, right?
And this will help too. We have a lot of students who might be very young. They're like, oh, we need to have this child evaluated and assessed. And it's really, they've never had exposure to, rather than actually having some, you know what I mean, some significant needs. So it really gives them an opportunity to, to engage before.
So you're using the BOI for, and where they attended or didn't attend?
Yep.
Okay.
And we also collect, when we do the case screening, we collect a lot of information. So we
And you're
have some-
expecting about 20 kids?
We're
Is
hoping,
that-
yeah.
Okay. So it says determine need of transportation.
We're going to work with families to see if they can drop off. If not, Jill will be helping us put together
the
a
van?
Right?
Driving by.
Like I have it.
You just made a face.
Sounds like that's the first time
We'll,
Jill's
yeah. we'll find a way to get the kids there if we need to. We're hoping actually that maybe this would actually help parents too, because it's an earlier start. We're not making them stay later. So perhaps a before school program, they may be a little more inclined to drop the student early, and then go to work kind of thing. And so we'll determine what we need to do with that. We always find a way.
So you're looking for a motion to allow you to implement the kindergarten extended learning program?
Yes, and we need the
It
resources.
says total cost of 1960, or do we want to leave?
That would get us through the first piece of the year. We want to check in and then see how.
Sure. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
we'd
then we
be
can come back to the
revisiting
committee.
this in January.
Yeah, we can come back to the committee. It'd be good to give, we'd like to give you an update anyway, to tell you how it's
So I'll
going.
make a motion to approve the MES kindergarten tutoring program with the estimated amount up to $1,906, up to $2,000.
That'd be better,
I
because
know.
there's Medicare involved in here that's
Okay, so-
minor dollars, but.
So
Yeah, motion
up
made.
to $2,000.
Second.
As requested.
All right, motion made by Aaron, seconded by Chuck. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. All right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. On to the business office.
Personnel report you have in your file, it's for changes in October, that's to be placed on file. I didn't know if there was any details that anybody wanted to provide, but that pretty much tells you the staffing changes that were made. We'll move on to the expense report. And naturally, there's another change in the report. It's an ever evolving report. I found out from the Department of Revenue that the school choice sending that we originally budgeted through the general fund, we cannot do that. We have to budget it through the special revenue fund. So the only real change you'll see in here, well, there's a couple, but the main one is you'll see the school choice receiving is no longer in the budget. That's been moved out. The budget's been moved out, and any receipts we get in will be put in there. But the same token, if you remember, our receiving went down from the 250 we budgeted to the I think it's 141,000 that they're estimating now. That 141,000 of expense was also moved out of the school choice sending line into that fund. So the net effect is basically almost nothing to the general fund. The other change you're going to see under benefits, which is on page 2, with health and dental, you're going to see a projected to year end in the third column from the left, from the right, of 503,000 for health and 71,000 for dental. That is the retiree cost that the original reports weren't picking up. The deduction wasn't set up and it wasn't being posted properly when the invoice was being paid. But we found that, corrected it, so now we have that estimated amount in there. And that's pretty much it. It didn't really change too much as our year-end projection. We're pretty much, in roughly the same boat that we were in before. Does anybody have any questions on the report? And you'll see the projected surpluses that we have in salary and benefits. That's what's going to go to fund all these different changes that we just made. Good?
Good.
Okay. Looks like you have a question.
I do, but I'm not gonna, just the very bottom with the use of E&D.
Yes.
Are you projecting not to use what we budgeted?
I don't believe we will.
Okay.
And when I was talking to the superintendent, we felt it might be better to show this as a operating budget, not using any of the, they call it E&D or surplus. So
that's why you had it a negative over
that's
here.
correct. Why I
Okay.
show nothing being used up
See?
top.
Just showing you that I'm paying attention.
On the budget transfer approvals, just as I said last meeting, these are all the journal entries that were made from the last meeting's date of September 4th through October 2nd. And I've highlighted any budget journal entries that were made that affected the function code, that changed function code. And there's only 3 at this point in time. You're going to see a lot more of this as I go through. Just for an example of straightening out some of the where things are being accounted for in the system, we did 450 journal entries today. And they weren't budget journal entries, they were expense being moved, but now we got to tie all the budgets back out to that too. So, but for this period, these are the only entries that were made. And I believe this does need some approval on your behalf.
Sure, and we're gonna continue to do this, approve these as they get corrected, so I'll take a motion to accept the budget transfers as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Tara, seconded by Aaron. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Next item is the E&D. I'm happy to report that we have our certified E&D for next year's use. It came in at $508,696. And in the sheet that you have shows how they calculated that from our undesignated reserve, all the adjustments that were made down to that 508. And I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Is this early?
It's on time.
Oh. Okay.
It's actually due, I think it was by the 30th. And the E&D actually isn't due until later in the year, but we
January?
got it done. Yeah, we got
Okay.
it done early.
Good.
It's the year-end report that's on time. Sorry. This is early.
This is early.
But we need to do this every year because we need a certified amount to put into use for next year's budget. We shouldn't be guessing.
Yeah.
Right.
No questions? The next item is the FY '26 budget timeline. This is our projection of how we'll flow through the budget. It's pretty much lines up with what was done in the past. We just made some adjustments to fit the weeks that may have changed. We'll try to get all the schedules out to the cost centers and the principals and department heads to get their budgets ready by the end of this month. Big piece of that is going to be getting all these accounts adjusted the way I'm doing it now. So we're working pretty hard. Kathy's helping me out to get those done on time, get the budget set up so we can actually export that and say, here you go, this is what you need to set up now, and this is where you're going to budget it. I don't know if that any questions on it. This will be my first year running through this timeline, so but it doesn't look like it's going to be that difficult to meet.
Who's on the subcommittee for
Finance?
finance?
Tara, Kerry, and myself.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. I'll take a motion to accept the proposed budget timeline for FY '26.
So moved.
Motion made by Tara,
Second.
second by Kerry. Subject to change, just for discussion, like to be tweaked in the timeline.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
The dates will be as we go.
I think there's some to be determined
Yeah.
on there too.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Insurance review, and I'll defer any detailed questions to Jessica because she's really spearheading this. But we're starting to work with Lockton Companies. Patrick, I think it's Harridan, is the president of the company. We've met with them, and Jessica's meeting with them continuously to take an evaluation of our medical and dental benefits. And if there's any opportunity out there to get some favorable rates for the district, because as you know, rates are skyrocketing. And I think you said to me, Jessica, that there's only really like 3, maybe 4 possible places to go. If he finds that there's some kind of benefit to us, then he will take the lead of preparing an RFP for us to see if we can get some better rates for that. I don't know if you have any questions on that, but Jessica's here to answer if you'd like.
Who is he? Who is he?
I'm sorry, it's Patrick Harridan,
Okay.
the Lockton Companies
He's from the
president.
Lockton Companies, yeah, so I'll send him our census with all of our retirees and our active employees to kind of get a sense of how many, what we're looking at. There's really not many companies left that they've all kind of bought each other out, so there's our biggest one would be Blue Cross Blue Shield to stay with them, but go with them 100%. So that's where we're looking.
It's always good to search.
Yeah, can't hurt.
It's good to let everybody know that we are searching too.
I will be on notice.
Well, yeah, and we had I'm not going to remember right now, but years ago we did have that person, and thankfully we're able to escape that they weren't working for us. So it's good to have someone new, and we've been away from it for a few years. So it's good to have some competitive information at least.
He's going to come in, Patrick's going to come in December, meet with our insurance advisory council, and give us all the information about what our options are, so we'll be able to make a decision based on that.
I'm still willing to be on that, by the way. I've participated for many years.
They are fun.
Not hearing any objection from any other committee members.
It's just good to have we have our retirees who have they know, but it's good to have someone that remembers, the ups and downs and what we've been through and stuff like that.
We have 209 retirees on insurance now. Most of them are on MedX or Medicare plans. A couple of them are still under 65 or not Medicare eligible, compared to only 154 active plans right now. So our retiree group is
they're high. They're bigger.
Yeah.
It's amazing that our retiree group is so much higher than our active.
Yeah. And those are mostly individual plans, if you think about it, because MedX plans are, if there's a married couple, the husband and the wife have a plan by themselves. Like they're
But
not
correct me if
together.
I'm wrong, the newer retirees are not able to stay on a PPO. Like we did away with, didn't we do away with?
If they're Medicare eligible, they'll go to MedX.
But
So
the ones that aren't there yet,
Nope, they can stay on the PPO plan. We have one.
50/50.
Yep.
And then the actives, I think is what you're thinking of, they pay the difference. So we only pay the HMO rate, flat rate.
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we only have,
They
we
pay the
have
upcharge.
2 retirees on the PPO plan.
But we are not offering PPO anymore, correct?
We do, but they have to pay the up, I
They have
don't
to
know if
pay
it's
the
taking you, but they
higher.
have to pay the upcharge.
Yes, for our active employees, yeah.
We pay one flat rate for HMO, and then the employee pays whatever the upcharge is. If they want the PPO, it's on them.
So it's not quite 75-25 for if an employee elects the PPO plan.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jess.
LED lighting upgrade and solar credit update. I was contacted by Energy Conservation. Chris Collins is the the individual that works for that company. They're the ones that are kind of facilitating the grant and getting the installations done. When they did the review of phase 2 of the middle school, they neglected to include the gym lighting in their assessed cost. So he resubmitted some information to me. With that change, it's an additional $21,335 in total project cost, which represents about, $10,667 for us. That would need to be covered by our credits. And you can see on the schedule, I did make the update. The credits, there's plenty of credits to absorb that additional funding, additional cost. So it won't be any cash out to us. It'll just be right off of our bills. But I do need to re-sign, or the superintendent would need to re-sign another agreement with those totals in there, so we're all on the same page and everything's approved. And Scott's going to give an update in his report. They're flying through this work. I mean, I think he said that they're almost done with the outside lighting in the parking lots. So with your approval, we'd like to go ahead and approve this increase so we can make sure that the gymnasium lighting is also done in the upgrades.
Is that for an additional $10,667.50?
Yeah, cost to us.
So that's what you want the motion for?
Yes.
To be
Yep.
paid from the credit.
Right,
And-
not
and-
an actual cost.
You're right, and also the approval to sign the agreement with that change that's been made. There's a proposal that we have to sign off and approve on.
And I'm happy to hear they're flying through it, because wasn't there a very close deadline?
December whatever's not completed by December 31st won't be eligible for any kind of reimbursement.
Okay.
So I'll take a motion to authorize the superintendent enter into the agreement for an additional $10,667.50 with the solar, with the light,
So with the
lighting
net,
contract.
to be paid by net metering credits.
To be paid by net metering.
So moved.
Motion made by Tara,
Second.
second by Chuck. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The next one is the Bayville Health grant for $99,000. Jill, I think that one's yours.
Yes, it is mine. I'm spending this one.
I mean, we can take it.
Yeah. So we had this last year, and they extended us to it this year, which actually we weren't aware that we were going to be getting this. It's a school behavioral health workforce and service expansion grant. So within this grant, there's actually one of the grants is $99,000. There are specific things it mentions in this. In the eligible use of funds, right in here, what we're going to be using. So it is going to be focusing on the behavioral and mental health and the supports that go along with that. Last year, when we did this grant, it helped us bring in Rachel's Challenge. It helped us bring in Navigant 360. We did some professional development. So it was really helpful in bringing, services and supports to our school and programs. This year, we definitely have some plans for this. Using some intervention services through here, additional professional development, and also looking at some extensions to our Navigant 360, some of the work that we're doing with that. And all of these programs have been really helpful for us in the schools in expanding you've heard of this, toolkits. So that's it, and then there's another small one that's in there that Karen Young oversees for our, it's a comprehensive healthcare. So we were really happy to get this grant again this year. It was a very nice surprise at the start. So we definitely are hoping to get some work done with this year.
So you were just asking us to accept these this evening? And so one is the CSHS funding for 14,000 and the behavioral grant, we need to accept both of those, Joe? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll take a motion to accept the CSHS funding as well as the FY '25 Behavioral Health Expansion Award grant for a total of combined of $113,000.
Yes.
So moved.
Motion made by Tara,
Second.
seconded by Kerry. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Right, the high school gym floor update, I'm happy to tell you that it's done and it's being used. And I gotta say, O'Keefe Building, they did a great job. It looks really good. Obviously, it's a brand new floor piece, it's a brand new floor with an older floor, so the colors doesn't line up exactly, but it looks really well. Maya has been pretty instrumental with this. They've been very good to work with. The total project cost was $58,251.52. We subtract out some costs that we spent along the way, about $5,000 worth out of our local funds to help with the work. And they applied that to our deductible. So the remaining balance of $4,982.38 is our portion of the deductible still needing to be paid. So the way we handled it was Maya fully paid the O'Keefe Building, the O'Keefe invoice of $23,115 less the $49.82 that we owed, and then we're cutting a check directly to O'Keefe, and it's square and done. It's already in for payment. It should be on one of the next warrants you sign. So it came out well. I don't know if anybody has any questions, and that 49 will be paid out of the miscellaneous revolving fund, like you had approved.
Good news.
Okay.
Is that all we have, Joe?
That's it for me.
All right, thank you very much. With the new gym floor repaired, that brings us right into the facilities update.
Yes, and as Joe just mentioned, that work was completed. O'Keefe Flooring came in over the weekend on September 29th, put the final coat of polyurethane on it. We allowed it 2 days to dry, and the gym was put back into use on Wednesday, October 4th. Volleyball game had their first game on it. Yeah, so that was awesome. As you know, we put all the bleachers up on the track for homecoming, for anybody that attended that. There was one glitch during homecoming, which may be worth mentioning at this time. The scoreboard went out in the fourth quarter, so I am having my electrician look at it. We're gonna replace the batteries, which are original. As you know, it runs on solar. There's no electricity up there.
Yet.
So our electrician is going to change the batteries out. The batteries are 2 weeks out, but we'll get them in there. And we're also looking to hook up a transfer switch so that if this should ever happen again, cloudy weather and such, we can power it with the generator in an emergency situation until we get power up there. And we also have one broken window at the high school. Franklin Glass will be out to replace that. The glass has been ordered, and we're looking at, I believe it was October 23rd, that they will be out to put that in. In the meantime, we're gonna remove the old one and install a piece of plywood. That'll be done this weekend, so that'll be ready to go. Over at the middle school, the new gauges for the sprinkler system have been ordered, and that work is gonna be done on November 1st, which is our paraprofessional development day, so there'll be no interruptions. Domestic hot water mixing valves, as I stated earlier, I got a couple of quotes on those, and those parts have been ordered, and when they come in, I'll come in on a Saturday and rebuild those. And as Joe mentioned, phase 2 of the lighting project began on September 30th, and it's predicted to take 3 weeks to complete. They should be done by the end of next week, if not early the following week. They did start on the outside lighting. If you drive around, you'll notice some of the old light fixtures are still up on the street lights. Some of the new ones are up and running. The wall sconces will be replaced too. They had to order additional plates to cover up the large hole that's in the bricks. So that'll be done. I know they were working on the flagpole lights today, so be interested to see if those are up and running. And that's it for middle school. As you know, during the recent fire drill, a couple of interior doors were not working. We're receiving quotes to get those replaced and add additional door closers so that we're not pegging the doors open anymore. It's a safety issue. And Millville Elementary, we're waiting for phase 2 for the LED lighting project to begin there. I imagine once this one wraps up. They are expected to make deliveries actually tomorrow for the lighting fixtures. And it was discovered, which kind of gave me a heart attack, during one of the building checks. They came in and saw that the heating software wasn't working. And as you know, a couple of years ago, all that was replaced, so it gave me a brief heart attack. But I quickly diagnosed that the batteries and the uninterrupted power supply had died. So there must have been maybe a power surge over the weekend or something that kicked it off, and it didn't recover because the batteries were dead. So I replaced those. Everything is back up and running. That concludes my facilities update.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you,
Any
Scott.
questions? No.
All right, next we have use of facilities request.
So you've got the 3 requests in front of you, and the first one is the youth basketball league that we already spoke about. They're looking to use Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 5 to 9 at the Kennedy Elementary School, Maloney Elementary School, from 11/4 through March 31st of 25. Do I want to go through all of these, and then that's it?
If you want to read through it, if anybody wants to hold any, otherwise we can go right through all of them and then approve them all at once if there's.
And that's only for they only put down for the practices, by the way, on that one. Next one is from the Blackstone Millville Elementary Middle PTO. They're doing a Halloween event at the Hardwick Middle School on Friday, October 25th from 4:30 to 8:30. And this is a group 1, so there is no charge for that. And the final one is the BME PTO. It's a Scholastic Book Fair that'll be running November 5th through the 19th, Monday through Friday during school hours. Also a group 1, so there is no charge for that. And that's it.
Pleasure of the committee.
Should we pull the basketball out so we can waive the fee?
They didn't,
It's not calculated, but it is group 2 checked off, so should we just formally?
We'll approve that one with the waiver fee and then approve the other 2 together.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
It's different?
Did we not waive that fee already?
Yeah, we'll just do it again every time.
What is the
That's fine, yeah, it's a good
How
idea.
about, because the other 2 don't have a fee, so can we just say we approve all 3 without no fees?
Yeah,
Sure. even
So
better.
then I'll motion to approve all 3 facility requests with no fees.
Motion made by Carrie,
Second.
seconded by Tara's. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Are we done, other than school committee forum? Did we make it through this?
Just figuring out that meeting
Okay, well, let's figure out the next meeting date then. What's,
Is that a conflict?
14th?
Was that already on the calendar, or is that a?
well, yeah, it must have been on the calendar already.
Change
That
it.
was up to 7th, right?
Yeah, it was because that's in conflict with the MASS joint conference.
Oh, your conference. Why don't we all go to the conference with you and we can have the meeting there?
We can
I
zoom
think
in.
Jason would love that.
The
I
Emerald
don't know why,
Village
that's a great idea.
Historic Irish.
Or the meeting is at the Irish Village.
We may know some people there.
I'm Sicilian, I don't know any of those people.
You can be our
So we're
protection.
changing the date? Sorry, I'm tired. Are we changing the date? Like,
We were not done talking amongst ourselves over here. 14th, the next Thursday?
We have school building committee,
Yeah.
but that's 5:30 for an hour till 6:30. We'd have
You wanna move it?
Change.
6:30
See
on the
people can do
14th?
5 to 6.
We could try that, yeah, and then put this at 6.
Is it a heavy agenda on, you anticipating on the?
The designer applications were due to MSBA that day, so I think we were gonna discuss that.
Here or at the, at our
Actually,
meeting
we're
or
here.
at the
This is
building?
a school committee
Oh,
meeting.
I thought you meant the school building committee meeting, sorry.
That's okay.
It will not be nearly like this.
So the 14th, and your meeting is at 5:30?
5:30 right now.
So we can set it up for 7 or 6:30 or?
They just said they'll move it to 5.
We could try to move that to 5.
Oh, okay.
I
You
forget
wanna
if
do
there was
that?
a reason we didn't. I think it just was because people were. It's live. We're gonna do it in person for that school building. But I think 5 should work.
I mean, we can set it tentatively to the 14th. If there's a conflict, we can adjust.
Okay.
Good enough?
The next school building committee meetings in person,
Yes. Here.
struggle. Zoom.
Oh.
Oh, you'd
That
rather
works.
be in person?
Last time I couldn't, like it was coming in and out.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Couldn't
I don't
hear.
even know how to log
People were
on.
talking to me, I couldn't hear.
Yeah,
them.
I could see, yeah, that's right, I remember that, yeah.
Yep.
So 11,
Okay.
14.
11:14 at,
Got it.
the time will be determined. Does anyone have anything for school committee forum? Aaron?
Just real quick, the fees that are attached to these facility requests, we updated recently,
August, I think?
but I don't think these are the updated, just so you know. It has the date of February 12th, 2009. But I don't know if it's the time of night or just lack of remembering. I don't remember what we updated the fees to. So, but I don't think, when you were saying $20 for, and when Tara said maybe we should revisit group 2, I was like, what, we made changes and I couldn't wrap my mind around it.
We only did
Fees?
group 3.
I think we only changed
So-
group
Did
3.
one group,
with the
yeah.
Just in
additional
group
hourly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do definitely need to update the date on that
We
form then.
definitely
But I
did.
thought,
Should
were we
have been
gonna,
updated.
were we changing that date though to be like January? Or did we say we'd leave the date?
If I recall correctly, we were not going to
Do anything until
do
the,
anything until
that's
the,
how, yeah, we did.
until the following school year. Was it the following
School
school
year?
year?
We'll have to check
No,
the
we've
minutes.
charged
we've
people
charged
that,
new
we
ones.
Okay.
The new,
already charged other people.
the new rate is effective then.
The new rate for group 3.
3, yes.
And I think we
Group 3
were
was
gonna
effective.
revisit all the other ones throughout the,
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll have to
after
check the minutes.
coming in the spring. That's how I remember it.
But the
Well-
adopted date at the bottom should reflect.
So we
when
at least need to
we
put
adopted
up,
the new
change
group
that.
prices.
an updated date.
Yeah, we changed.
Okay.
I'll
It
take
just
care of that
confused me.
tomorrow.
I was like, what, am I looking at the old or the new? Because
Yeah.
I was confused by the additional hour comment, but
I will take care of that tomorrow.
Okay, anyone have anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion made by Matt,
second.
second by Tara. All
Tara
those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Have a good evening.